The beauty that is the city of Rome. Hello and welcome everybody to the coverage here of the 83rd Giro d'Italia. I'm Phil Liggett, joined as usual by Paul Sherwin. The race over 3 weeks, bringing together 20 teams and a total kilometrage of 3,674. And the start right in the centre of Rome at the Vatican, a prologue time trial over 4.6 kilometres. And that will start our long journey south, returning up the eastern side of Italy and then across the Dolomites to the finish in Milan. So, Paul, the first part of the big news, of course, is as we watch Jan Ruska coming up here, this man has been setting a sensational time at midpoint. That's the time to beat, 5 minutes 44. Ruska looks as though he's going to do it.
Well, coming up to the line, this is going to be a very fast time indeed, and in fact it is the new best time, but still, Phil, there are an awful lot of big names to come, but this man really has set the pace so far.
Well, that's a very, very good start. There is the man who is hoping to do a good ride, making a very late decision to come to the Giro d'Italia, Marco Pantani. And here he is now out on the course and lacking a little bit, but not a bad time.
Well, it's not a bad time for Marco Pantani, but I think the big news is with just 48 hours to go, Marco Pantani coming in here with a time outside of 6 minutes, really made a last-minute decision to come here to the Giro.
And now we're looking back here at Pavel Tonkov, who's out on the cobblestones. You can see we're going into the early evening now in Rome, and the cobblestones here glistening a little bit. But this is a rider who has a great love affair with the Giro d'Italia over the years, and he looks like he's trying to get himself off to a very good start.
Well, this man is a big favourite for the overall victory here. In the prologue time trial, it is so important to put in a good time. He's looked very good out on the course, but Phil, the organisers have really taken a big risk. Fortunately, the weather is good, because I think this is a very tricky course.
It is indeed a tricky course, and Tonkov has not enjoyed it that much. He comes home with 5 minutes and 49 seconds, 16th place, and not a great start for him. Now, Paolo Savardelli, the man who finished second overall last year. He looks to me as though he is running Ruska very close indeed here.
Well, he has taken a few risks going around the corners. This is one of the tricky parts of the course here. We're not too far from the finish. Savardelli has posted some pretty rapid times out on the course. A recent win in the Giro of Romandy proved that he is on form and looking like a big title winner towards the end of this event.
Now this is going to be a very, very good time here from Savardelli, and I think a new leader on the board as he swings up into the home finishing straight. It is quite a long way up towards the line here. Remember that Ruska has the best time, 5:38 on the board, and a big sprint coming here from Paolo Savardelli. He really is rocking and rolling as he comes up this long straight, but there's the time. It's going to be a great time. He's off to a good start in the Giro d'Italia. He grits his teeth and pushes it all the way. 5 minutes. It's going to be a new best, I think, on the line as he sprints now for it. Look at the speed of this man in front of the crowd. 5:38. Well, Paul, it looks as though, if anything, he's going to be a fraction of a second slower as we go back to last year's winner, Ivan Gotti, and he's not going to do it.
Well, Ivan Gotti is a long time out, but for him what's important is how he performs after 3 weeks. But you know, they are actually giving the fastest time to Jan Ruska by a fraction of a second ahead of Paolo Savardelli.
Well, they're saying by a mere 59 thousandths of a second, Jan Ruska, the time trial champion of his country, the Czech Republic, has got the victory over Paolo Savardelli. And that has got to go down as one of the closest finishes in time trial history. And indeed, it was an average speed of 48.994 kilometres an hour on a very difficult circuit. Ruska finishing ahead of Savardelli, Bradley McGee of Australia getting third, and Mario Cipollini putting in one of the big surprises there by taking fourth place.
Well, that's very important for Mario Cipollini, Phil, because of the bonus points over the first few stages. He will be looking at trying to get himself the pink jersey out on the course.
He will indeed, Paul. Well, one gladiator who didn't start the Giro d'Italia, Evgeny Berzin, the Russian rider who won the race in 1994, prevented from starting because of a high hematocrit reading, which suggests the possible use of the drug EPO. Under the international rules, he was stopped from riding just as they threw out Marco Pantani 12 months ago when leading this race. So we're looking down on the Colosseum now as the riders think of riding a race away from Rome now as we start to course our way south here. We're on the west side of the leg of Italy, and the riders now facing up to a ride in excess of 100 kilometres, heading south now. It is going to be a battle of the sprinters, we think, on this opening few days of racing, but of course on this rather hilly Giro d'Italia, the sprinters won't always have their best of days. This is it, the first full stage, 129 kilometres from Rome down to Terracina. And after an early sprint win by Mario Cipollini, where he got 6 seconds bonus out of the hot spot, it's come down, Paul, to what's certain to be now a sprint for the line.
Well, there's a big sprint for the line, but there are no riders from the Seiko team at the front here. You can see the big long line there as they look for the final kilometre, where it's going to come up very rapidly. In fact, they already came through the finishing line here once, Phil, today, so they know where the line is, and you can see it's still a massive sprint altogether.
Well, it's the anticipated battle we expected here as the riders now line up for the finish in this last kilometre. And Martinello is the Polti rider there, taking a dive across the road. It looks like Stephen de Jong of Rabobank is involved in this, but no immediate signs of Mario Cipollini. I think he's made a little bit of a mess of this one, Big Mario, because in the middle in the white there is Konishev, as now the sprint is opening. Stefan de Jong, and also this is Martinello trying to be led out here. As Martinello sits and waits here, Konishev looking over from the left of the picture, the Russian who announced his retirement but has come back since, and now an attack here by the Lamprey team. So as we come down this coastal resort town, the wind is blowing across the course. The riders have left the move till it's very, very late indeed. But now they're going for it, and Martinello's up to the right of our picture. This is Stefan de Jong of Rabobank in the middle. Still Cipollini is not making the move we anticipated, and out of nowhere it is Ivan Caranta who has got an early win in the Tour of Italy. He got 2 stages last year. But Paul, by calculation, the pink jersey will go to Mario Cipollini.
Just by a mere 2 seconds because of that time out on the course, but we didn't see Mario Cipollini anywhere in that sprint. He obviously misjudged it. He spent a lot of energy, Phil, in the middle part of the course trying to get his time bonus there. I think, in fact, he may have come across the line in 5th place. You can see the red jersey at the bottom. This is Martinello on the front, down on his back wheel in the orange and white. There is the Rabobank rider. A big charge for the line coming underneath. The Polti rider there, in fact, is Jerome Blynavels. Then all of a sudden, down in the bottom of the picture there, you can see there, in fact, is Ivan Coronta. He saw the gap opening, accelerated, and you know, it was that last 10 metres when he lunged for the line. I really don't know where he came from, but this man has got an unbelievable turn of speed.
Well, he certainly showed it there. He won a few stages of the Tour of Langkawi this year in Malaysia, 3 in fact, and now he's got what he wanted, a stage win in the Giro d'Italia. He's going to be pretty happy with that as battle resumes with Cipollini as well. No major climbs on the second stage. The riders continuing their journey south down the western side of the leg of Italy. This stage, the longest so far, 229 kilometres from Terracina down to Maddaloni. And the weather absolutely atrocious here. The breakaway has got clear, Paul. It went at 150 kilometres to go, so they've gone very early.
Well, it's unbelievable. Weather conditions like this you don't expect in the Giro d'Italia, well, certainly not in the southern part of the country. You know, it's almost a river these riders are going through at the moment. The Mape rider we're looking at here is Andrea Noe, and even the cars have a hard time staying in front of this breakaway group. The Kelme rider in there is Jose Enrique Gutierrez, and the riders now, Phil, looking at 30 kilometres to go, but you've never seen roads like this, I don't think, in the Giro d'Italia.
No, and not surprisingly, slipping and sliding back in the main field. The breakaway, which seems to be deciding the day on this little circuit, it's a tough circuit right now, is Matteo Tussato, Sergio Barbaro, Simone Bertoletti, Elio Aggiano, Daniela Contrini rather, Christian Moreni and Carsten Kroon of the Rabobank team, who has been climbing extremely well. Bertoletti at 21st is the best placed overall, just 13 seconds off the race leader's yellow jersey.
Well, in the main field behind, there have been an awful lot of crashes as well, as riders are taking risks trying to stay at the front of the main field to keep themselves out of danger. On the front of the main pack, though, it is the work of the Seiko team of Mario Cipollini trying to keep him in the pink jersey. But, you know, I don't think they've done it right, because we've gone into the outskirts of the finishing town and Christian Moreni has actually jumped away from that group.
Well, he's taken his chance in these atrocious conditions while the bunch behind is slipping and sliding, and there's been a number of crashes now in the peloton. Gutierrez and Noe are a minute and 15 seconds behind the original breakaway of 6, so they're not going to get back now, and this man has left the other 5 behind and looks like he could be heading for his first ever professional win here. He's been a pro since 1998, and he looks as though he's conquered the weather better than anyone else. He was 44th overall this morning. Everybody split just by seconds. after the prologue time trial. He's 17 down behind the race leader. He has a real chance now, Paul, of pulling on the pink jersey of the Giro.
Well, 8 seconds is advantage over the chasing group with Tossato, who was the favourite, I thought, to take the pink jersey, and the main field with Mario Cipollini a further 40 seconds behind. Cipollini's boys really haven't calculated this one correctly. They're going to have to really put the hammer down, Phil, over the last few metres to try and pull their man back into the pink jersey. But I think you're right. I think the pink jersey will go to this man if he can hold off the rest of that group, including Tossato.
Well, he wants to watch that white line in slippery conditions like this. He's only ever won one stage before in the Tour of Spain. That was his first pro win. As they're warming up here now to think of the sprint, I'm afraid, for second place, because Morena is going to win this stage. I think he's just up the road. You can see him. And now, have they left enough time to bring him back?
Well, I'm not sure they have. One dangerous thing today was the man on the back of this group, in fact, is Hernan Buenahora, a man you shouldn't let get into small breakaways like this on the flat stages, because he too could find himself riding to a high place in the overall standings at the end. Tossato, Phil, though, is just in front of this group, but nobody now wants to chase.
Well, there's the final compilation, and Noe has got up with Gutierrez as well, so they've strengthened this, because the breakaway has been outmaneuvered today by this Italian rider. 27 years of age, into the last kilometre now. He's going to get the greatest moment of his life, and if he can just hold a gap over that chase group, he will have the pink jersey of race leader as well.
Well, he's taking all the risks. He's inside the final kilometre now. This is the chase group behind, with Matteo Tossato, the rider in the white jersey, and the man at the front here really is doing an unbelievable job. Cristian Moreni, Phil, has attacked them just at the right moment, and because they were all looking to try and pull on the pink jersey, because everybody is so close together, they've marked each other out of this bike race, and you know it's going to go to Moreni as long as he stays upright.
Well, this is Buenahora tagged onto the back here. We normally see him in Kelme colours. New team for him this year, the Nectar Sella Italia team. He'll be just happy to be in the breakaway, I think, as we now line up for the finish here. And Moreni, the rides for the Leaky Gas team, the Italian. It's been a long day today, over 6¼ hours for the riders, but he's flying over the roads now because he knows he's racing to a pink jersey of the Giro d'Italia. He has to be ever so careful on these slippery roads. Matt Stevens of the Linda McCartney squad has gone down with a nasty crash today, and we hope will limp home to the finish. But this rider is going to be all smiles now because he gets the victory and the clock is counting. Tossato was his main worry, and this in fact is Tossato who comes over. Look how annoyed he is. And Carsten Kroon for Rabobank, he'll be the new leader in the King of the Mountains, and Gutierrez comes over there in 4th place. Let's have a look at that again, Paul.
Well, absolutely fantastic. He took all kinds of risks on the run into the town here. He knew he had to try and stay off the front of that group. But you know, behind the man who's the big loser is Tossato, because if he'd been first man across the line today, Phil, he most certainly would have been in the pink jersey. And you know, what a great win by this young man. No wins at all to his credit, and what a day for him in the rain in Italy.
Absolutely, and he's, well, I don't know how they can drink champagne anyway. There's confirmation of the stage result. Tossato 5 seconds behind. The small win bonus from Moreni will confirm him as the leader of the Tour now by just 3 seconds over Tossato. Gutierrez will be up into third place, and Carsten Kroon up into 4th. He'll be 13 seconds off the pink jersey. I wonder if he'll grab it later. Well, maybe even today, in fact, as we continue now, 174 kilometres. Thankfully, Paul, the heavy rain has left us, and it's a very, very nice day now as we cross the towards the heel of Italy, generally in a southeasterly direction on this ride down to Scalia.
Well, it's a very hot day indeed for the bike riders, Phil. Almost 90 degrees Fahrenheit, but this is the overall classification. Moreni leading Tossato by a mere 3 seconds.
Yeah. And the first break of the day is underway here. This is Andrea Ferragato, and with him is Paolo Vallotti of Mobile Vetta. He's the rider in front. At the moment, anybody who breaks away has a reasonable chance, except these two are rather a long way overall.
You can see the beautiful weather that's come down to this part of Italy now after that unbelievably atrocious weather yesterday. But they are threatening that there will be thunderstorms again towards the finish of this stage.
Well, it's nice countryside. It's very warm down this part of Italy. Rolling hills, and the peloton know that they have a 14-kilometre circuit that once they get through the finishing line at Scalia, which has a small climb on it. And so they're just going to take the time here with these riders. The breakaway has had a maximum of 4.5 minutes, and it's starting to come down.
Well, they will be certainly picked up towards the end, because it is a very difficult run in here, Phil, at the finish line. And in fact, that climb on the circuit, they go up it on 2 occasions, and it is a very difficult climb. I think it'll catch one of the 2 of the sprinters out, because certainly it is the sort of climb that will make a very good launch pad for the men who want to try and get clear. But this has to be one of the most magnificent sights in Italy as we make our way down the peninsula at the moment. These 2 guys had a maximum advantage of 4 minutes and 5 seconds, but in the main field it is starting to get a little bit more interesting as we see a lot of the work of Mario Cipollini's team coming forward.
Well, in theory, this would have been one of the stages Cipollini would have marked down for a likely win. Remember, he's engaging in battle with Ivan Caranta, just as he did last year. There's the gap, which is now up to 4:38. In fact, Ferragato, Velotti, both of these riders many minutes behind overall. A first chance to see the pink jersey now. The new leader of the Tour, Christian Morena, having the finest start to the Giro d'Italia he's ever had.
Absolutely magnificent. A beautiful day out for him in the pink jersey, but he's going to have to watch out for Matteo Tosato, because at the Intergiro point just before the finish there are time bonuses, and Tosato is proving to be quite a good sprinter, Phil. In fact, there's 6 seconds time bonus for the first man across the line there. All Tosato needs is second place in that to get himself into the pink.
Well, off the climb then, and it's not surprisingly it's Seiko who are putting in a lot of work here now as they continue to lead the charge to bring back these 2 riders and to try and get this field together before they start the last 14-kilometre circuit. If they can do that, they will put Cipollini in with a chance.
Well, also Cipollini wants to tick away at some of these time bonuses as well, because he'd certainly like to try and get himself back into the pink jersey. The work on the front by that team of Mario Cipollini, Seiko, is starting to bring it down. It's now 3 minutes to these 2 leaders, and they're starting to look a little more tired than they did earlier. But this is a great team. This is a brand new team on the block this year, Fassa Bortolo. They are the team that has been put together by the man who used to run the Ariostia team, Giancarlo Ferretti, and he's put together a very good team, and so far this season they've had quite a lot of success.
Well, one man he seems to have injected a new lease of life into, I have to say, is Dmitry Konishev. I thought he was going to pack in the end of last year. Instead, he's riding better than ever right now, but the gap is tumbling down now. 2 minutes 35 seconds. The beauty of this country never ceases to amaze.
But Phil, look at that. That's the distance. That's just where we're going to, and it looks as if we may well just get a repeat of those very bad weather conditions of yesterday. These 2 men are working very well together. They actually got clear with 112 kilometers to go, but certainly in the main field the pressure is on right now, and this is a very fast part of the course with all of the work on the front being done by Seiko. And it looks to me here as if Christian Morena, the man who is wearing the pink jersey, has a slight problem with his knee there, and it could be because of those weather conditions yesterday. He might have a slight problem with a bit of tendinitis creeping in.
Well, let's hope you're wrong there, Paul, but the gap is stringing them out on this climb to 23 seconds and counting. They're going to, I think, close in then. It's 30 kilometres to go now, so they are about 16 kilometres from passing through the finish line of today's stage. And just look how the field now is beginning to show signs of wear and tear.
Well, this is the climb that the riders will do twice on this finishing circuit. As they go into town, they will face a circuit of 14 kilometres. On the front here, the pressure is coming from Matt White, the Australian rider. He rides for Francesco Casagrandi's Vinny Calderillo team. Matty White has been very prominent at the front here, Phil, putting an awful lot of pressure on. And you can see all of these guys are suffering as the rain is now starting to come down.
Well, the pressure is going on, and this here is Oscar Ribera, who is the Kelme rider, and the group is trying to break up at the front here now. This is the tempo which was expected to come here. Morena has got to watch out now, move with this front split, because it could well break the field up here on this run down towards Scalia.
Looking down there, a lot of this work on the front of the main field was in fact done by Mario Cipollini's Seiko team, and I don't see much of Mario very close to the front of the main field right now. In fact, I would expect he's an awful long way back. The 2 leaders are still off the front at the moment, Phil, but they are only just surviving. I make it around about 20 seconds to these 2, and in fact it looks now as if Ferragato is deciding to go alone.
Well, he is the man with the big reputation, really. 13 wins in his career, which started back in 1991. I suppose his biggest win will be the Leeds International Classic and the Grand Prix Suisse in 1996, which hoisted him right up the World Cup standings. But he looks as though he's decided it's not worth pushing home, Paul, because this is the first advanced scout coming up from the field here.
Well, in fact, the reaction there coming from the Mobile Veta team, and they're forcing themselves right off the front. This looks very much like Filippo Baldo, who's coming across here. In fact, this is Valotti, who is still in with a chance. In fact, I think that caption may well be wrong, because I reckon this is Baldo, who in fact is an extremely good bike rider, and he's come out of the main pack and leapt off the front.
It is Baldo, Paul, you're absolutely right, as the field now is being brought back, or is it a split here? The Kelme boys making the most of this, led by Jose Luis Rubiera, and this is a little group getting clear here of the field now, and this is a move, of course. This small group here is being dropped from the main peloton, while the front of the race is splitting up. Look.
And that was the top sprinter there, Ivan Quaranta, in the Ciclamina jersey going off the back. But this is quite amazing, Phil, at this part of the game, to actually see the attacks coming from the Kelme squad. Jose Luis Rubiera going through there with Oscar Sevilla, and they are now announcing to us that the whole of the field is back together. I didn't see Ferrigato getting caught, but in fact we have got the majority of the main field here, and the man in the front of this split at the moment, Ivan Gotti, last year's winner.
Well, this is interesting to see him up here so early on in the Tour. We expected to see him a little bit later on in the mountains, but obviously feeling frisky. Incidentally, there was a crash on the run into the finish yesterday, and Fabio Baldato amongst the riders who were involved in that crash, and he was not able to start this morning, so that was rather sad for a sprinter. And this is Matty White, the Aussie rider, riding on the Vini Calderola team. Looks like he's starting to split away from the group.
Well, I think Phil, what he's trying to do is set something up for his team captain, which is Francesco Casagrande, but he needs to be careful, because the man he's dragging away here is number 91, and that is Gilberto Simoni, who was high in the rankings in this race last year. I think he took third.
Well, look at the split they've got in the field now. This is coming towards the end. Remember, we haven't yet gone through the finishing town before we go out on that loop, and these riders now at the front are trying to break it up. Matt White is now sitting at the back here, but I think he may have started something.
Well, this is a very difficult circuit around here, and it will have caught out one or two of the riders, and I should think Mario Cipollini is not too happy, because I reckon he probably counted this as a stage he could win. Gualdi is up there with Barbosa. There's Matty White. Wim van Savenvent, the Belgian rider, is in this group as well. We have about 9 riders going off the front, but the pressure is still on in the main field.
Well, Candido Barbosa is a very good sprinter. 20 kilometres to go. It's not long now before we pass through Scalia and head out on that final circuit. And the riders here now trying to get clear. They haven't got much of a gap yet. It's only a handful of seconds. Well, there you are. 10 seconds for these 6 riders clear. Nice to see Chan McRae in the break.
Well, Chan McRae will do a lot of work in the latter part of this Giro for the man who Mape thinks is going to win. That is Pavel Tonkov. But it really is good to see Chan McRae up there already, Phil, being competitive. You can see now it's all starting to come back together, but there's 1 or 2 of the big sprinters certainly being tailed off this group.
Well, here we are now, back up with the leaders. Matt White leading the charge through there, and you'll never get any short work rate off this man. He puts the lot into it. Koos Murenhout is the Farm Freaks rider up there as well. And it's quite a breakaway, and again Konishev looks as though he's near the front.
Well, Konishev is a very competitive bike rider at the moment. He is in this group. Another man in this group as well is Mirko Gualdi, the rider from Mobile Veta. There's their advantage. You can see riders are actually forcing their way off the front of the group here, Phil. We can see 1 or 2 riders coming forward now from Seiko, so I suppose Mario Cipollini must be in this group, although he was reported to be in serious difficulty.
You know, these are difficult times for the sprinters. They're having to work rather hard to keep this field together, because this little group is dangling like a carrot in front of them. It's edged out a little bit to 14 seconds now. That's Barbosa sitting at the back. He's a very good sprinter if he can stay with this group towards the end. We're now into the finishing straight, but it's not the finish this time around.
Well, it's unlucky for some, because when they hear the bell it will indicate 14 kilometres to go to the finish. One very difficult circuit, and they do, Phil, have to go up that climb once again. So I think a lot of the sprinters may well get robbed, and looking at the size of that group there are an awful lot of bike riders missing from the front of this main field today.
There was a sort out on the climb last time. We now have a real forward guard in the peloton. There's the clock starting. Konishev wants to get on with the action. I've never seen such an impressive ride from him for ages, as the Seiko boys have got control at 6 seconds, and they're trying to drive this race back up as one. So clearly, Paul, Cipollini must be feeling good.
Well, he did get over that climb. I'm sure he was in difficulty, but that's Cipollini at the back end of that long line of red riders. He certainly must feel good. He's driving the guys on, but he's going to get caught out again, you know, with that very difficult climb. Paolo Salvadelli on the front here, a man thinking about overall victory here, but today he's decided to work for the team. As you can see, the red guard of Mario Cipollini's team all on the front, and again, it's looking ominous. We've been through the wind, but now we're in the final kilometre, Phil, and it's all up to Mario Cipollini.
Well, he's kept control of the race on that final circuit of 14 kilometres, and it looks to me now Konyshev swings away and goes off to the left as the train starts. And once this train starts in this sort of manner, then you expect Cipollini to deliver the goods, and he is a man that likes to come off the tail of the Seiko boys. And now they're going with the last man on the front here before Cipollini, but watch out because the other sprinters know what's going on here. And in fact, we've got in there Tosato, who is doing so well and challenging now. Bonus will give him a pink jersey, but now Cipollini waiting until the very last moment here to be launched. And this is a typical move. He's organised his Seiko. This is the last lead-out man. It comes at 200 metres to go, which means that Cipollini in second wheel now is going to have to think about braking for the line. Tosato is right behind him as they start to move the line. Jans Ferrada has got the front, shoulder to shoulder with Cipollini, who bumps Ferrada, and on the line it is Cipollini who takes it, Paul. But you know, that bump I don't think the referees are going to like.
Well, they certainly won't. There is Mario Cipollini. He was the first man to cross the line. We'll take a look at that one more time here. It doesn't look like a purposeful move there across. He bumps the shoulders of Ferrada. Ferrada has to slow down, gets going again. Cipollini gets his arms up, but I think he realises the judges are going to have to look at that another time.
Well, Tosato finished in fourth place, out of the bonuses there. Now let's have a look if he's coming into the bonuses. Here is the collision. And as we look at this, in fact, the referees have announced that he has been declassed and put to the back of the bunch, and Jans Ferrada will be the winner of the stage over Guido Trenti and Martin Perdigero and Matteo Tosato. That's the top four. But you know, these two don't really seem to be complaining to me.
Well, I don't think that was done on purpose. I think that was just a very unfortunate accident. And at the end of the day, despite all of the excitement in the sprint, as we get official confirmation that Mario Cipollini has been disqualified, the pink jersey will stay on the shoulders of Cristian Moreni and Jans Ferrada. Well, I'm not sure he'll be too excited about winning in those conditions.
No, I'm sure he won't, but the battle is set to continue as the race lead now stays with Moreni. So Cristian Moreni is still in the pink as we go on to stage 4 now, from Scalia to Matera, 227 kilometres, Paul, and the climb of the Vallicchio di Campo Tenesi taking them up over 1,000 metres.
Well, that comes very early on in the stage. I think the thing is about this stage, Phil, there is a serious sting in the tail towards the end because we've got a very difficult third category climb in the last 20 kilometres at Monte Saglioso. And obviously today is going to be an incredible stage for the Spanish teams because they feel that they can be aggressive. And in fact, we've got an attack off the front right now from Victor Peña.
Well, it took a while in coming because, in fact, they covered the first 2 hours today at an average speed, can you believe, little more than 15 miles an hour. They certainly were in no hurry whatsoever, but now they're trying to liven things up again.
Well, unfortunately for Matteo Tosato, he was trying to get himself some time bonuses at the Intergiro because he's currently just 1 second behind Cristian Moreni in the overall standings, but he wasn't able to get up there at the Intergiro because it was Ferrari who was across the line first there, ahead of Seniuskin and Fabrizio Guidi in third, keeping the pink jersey still on the shoulders of Cristian Moreni by a single second.
Well, this is Daniel Snyder, who's got clear now as we head down towards the finish, but he's got himself coming up to the one survivor. This is Peña. So we've got Peña and Snyder, La Française des Jeux, at 25 kilometres to go, but it's not far back to the pack, and there they are. And again, it is Seiko doing the work, still smarting from the disqualification yesterday of Mario Cipollini, who was looking for his 30th stage win.
Well, another attack coming out here. This looks like Fortunato Baliani trying to get across here. He's from that new team, which is half Italian, half Colombian, Cell Italia Nectar. He's trying to get across to the leading group of two. Daniel Snyder is the rider in the white jersey there from the Française des Jeux. But this is just how the Italian rider came bouncing out of that group. And you see the Seiko riders feel they just left him go because I think they're trying to keep the whole of the group together to give Mario Cipollini a chance today. But I think the finish might be just a little bit too hard for him.
Well, he's got up to Peña and Snyder here, and now they're slowed right down, and that really isn't good thinking at all because if they're looking for the stage win, it's not the time to slow down. There's still about 26 kilometres to go here, and now the tempo starting at the back by the Vina Calderola boys, who are doing a lot of work there because among the favourites is their team captain Francesco Casagrande.
Well, that was Roberto Conti on the front, and they're right on the tail of this leading group of three right now, Phil. Again, This is the team coming forward. This is the team of Italia Nectar trying to get them off the front. This is Freddy Gonzalez now coming up there. This is a very aggressive team of Colombian riders. They're looking for the breakaway on a stage where I think it's a very difficult run into the finish here in Matera.
Well, this is the small climb and the 500 metres to the summit, and this is where they feel they can break up the field. And the Italia team have put all of their men in the thick of the action here. Still Gonzalez. Freddy Gonzalez here now trying to use the climb as a springboard and a dive down to the finish, but he'll have to go some because they're still chasing him.
Well, they're chasing him. The chasing is coming from the Kelme squad. This is the team we don't expect to see till the latter part of the Giro, till we get into the big mountain passes. But in fact, coming out there is Raphael Cardenas, the Colombian rider on that squad there. He now has made the junction. 2 riders at the front, and we're inside 250 meters to the summit of this very difficult climb.
So Cardenas and Freddy Gonzalez as they sprint out, and Cardenas gets the points at the top. The winner of the first climb today, by the way, was Carsten Kroon ahead of Mariano Piccoli, and Raphael Cardenas got third then. Now he's got a win there, so he's going to be close to the lead in the King of the Mountains, but I don't think he's scored enough points yet to take it away from the Dutchman.
And there Roberto Conti, the great domestique, coming across the line in third place. Everybody wants to get off the front of the main field right now, and this is the champion of Belgium leaping off the front, Ludo Dirksen. We've seen an awful lot of work done by him over the last few days. He's in fact coming to the Giro d'Italia. This is his first bike race after a suspension for admitting himself to having taken banned substances.
But taking them for an illness, and in fact it wasn't the case of trying to cheat in the race, but because he confessed, they actually suspended him because he was supposed to have declared it beforehand. Well, he's back racing now, and there he is right on the front, still wearing the Championship of Belgium's national jersey there until the next one, which comes up at the end of June, 1 week before the Tour de France.
Well, the yellow jerseys there on the front, those are the team of Marco Pantani. This is Snyder now. He's been joined here by Danilo De Luca. De Luca wearing number 31, a young rider and a man that many feel would be a future star. And you know, he's decided, Phil, that this pace is too much, so he's going to go back to the main group, and Snyder is now leading the race on his own with an advantage of around about 5 seconds.
Danilo De Luca tucked away in 23rd place overall at the moment. And looking at the bunch here, wise decision I think, because they looked as though they're quite well organised. Kelme trying to mix it in a little bit at the front here as the race is now slowly but surely coming back together. That's Daniel Snyder, just the one man left out front. Takes a look over his shoulder there, and oh my goodness me, the back of the motorbike knocked him off.
Well, I don't know how that happened, but look at that. Somebody nearly lost it in the middle of the group there. The rider from Polti got his foot out but managed to stay upright, and nobody else has hit that bike rider. You can see him up now, Phil, in the middle of the road, but if we can have a look at that once again, it was happened just as the motorbike was coming by, and I think it might have been the wing mirror that clipped him as he went by. He seems to be okay, but I've rarely seen anything quite that dramatic.
Well, that was an incredible situation. Here we can see it again now. The motorbike going through the middle is a race marshal, and it's the back of his panniers that clip his wheel and take him straight out. I've never seen that before, and if you haven't, here it is again here. That is an amazing mistake, and it's a nasty fall too. He was very lucky there that he didn't break his arm. Anyway, the peloton, hats off to them. I don't know how they stopped, but they did. And so Snyder is now behind the race as the peloton heads down towards the finish.
Another quick look at that. You can see they just took him out unbelievably. What happened was Snyder was coming across the road there. The motorbike was trying to come through to get out of the way of the race, which is accelerating, and just hit his handlebars there and just knocked him down as if he was standing still.
Well, the race is still trying to break itself up here on this rather undulating run-in down to the finish as we head down towards Matera.
Check this out, the pink jersey, Cristian Morena, is in second place here at the moment, Phil. He is riding an unbelievable bike race, but the attack is coming now at the front of the race, and you see this team now is really trying to force the pressure on. That was Petacci trying to get across there. They're trying to set something up for their man Tossato to try and get him some bonuses, and I think I caught a glimpse of Axel Merckx getting in the action there as well.
Well, we're looking down at a new group trying to form here as they start to move clear, and this is where the pressure goes on once again. That's Danilo De Luca sitting at the back of those leading 3 or 4 riders. He is also extremely aggressive right now as they're trying to move away from the field here, and also getting in on the action there is Enrico Cassani in second wheel behind De Luca, and this is Axel Merckx Paul, who's also in there. This is a good little move here.
A nice move for Axel, and I think his dad's going to get pretty excited because his dad's not too far away doing the commentary as well. The move now coming from Amica Chip's rider. This is Vitaly Kokorin, and he's getting off the front, but Axel Merckx has responded there. He's getting across the gap nice and smoothly, but the main field is right there at the moment, but they are under serious pressure. You can see the gap starting to appear. This is a very tough run-in.
Yeah, they're coming back together again, but again DeLuca goes once more. What an aggressive rider this is, because as I said earlier, he is lying in 23rd place overall, less than 3/4 of a minute behind. He gets a small win bonus, and he could be in the pink jersey. Moreno, the leader, don't forget now, this is his third day in the Maglia Rosa.
Well, that's a great move by Danilo DeLuca. That's obviously why he sat up and waited for the main field before. He knows the run-in today is very difficult. There, look at that. There's Mario Cipollini. He's in serious difficulty because, in fact, he's hanging on to one of his teammates there. And if the judges see that, well, they won't be too happy.
He will be in big trouble again. He was hanging on to Mario Sciria there, and just getting a little lift up the climb, but the helicopter spotted it, even if the referees didn't. Now a little composition of the group here: Paolo Lanfranchi, Enrico Cassani, Raul Montana, Danilo DeLuca, and the third rider I missed, but it's Alberto Ongarato, I think. Anyway, that's the small group, and it's all over.
It's all come back together again. The pressure is on.
Look at DeLuca, Paul. He's looking to go again.
He's flying. He looks so cool. You know, he's just waiting for the opportunity to get off the front at the moment. He's a magnificent bike rider, and you know, they're already talking about transfer fees for this man during the winter season because everybody wants him on board. It's the Vinny Calderillo team at the front right now. They're trying to set something up maybe already. And again, it looks like DeLuca on the outside. Phil, he's going for another attack.
Well, this has been an unusual race today, but it's certainly been full of entertainment. And again, Danilo DeLuca has launched another attack here, taking them very fast around that corner. But whatever you say, it is going to be Gruppo Compacto for the sprint finish.
Watch out, Konishev is leading them out though in the left-hand side. Mario Cipollini is right up there as well, so he managed to recuperate and stay at the front of the pack, leading them round. They've got the Lampre riders trying to set it up for Zverada, but right in the middle there's Konishev, there's Cipollini in third place right now.
And Jose Gutierrez is the Kelme sprinter trying to lead it out here. Martinello coming through as well. And Cipollini made it look very easy. Look at the power of this man. Konishev chasing him down. Cipollini gets it. Win number 30 for the Italian in the Giro d'Italia. In fact, it was certainly Silvio Martinello who led out, but Paul Cipollini, when he is on full power, he is so quick.
I tell you what, and when he's mad after a disqualification as well, he seems to really get the bit between the teeth. If he hadn't been disqualified yesterday, Phil, he would have been 14 seconds behind in the overall standings, and with that win as well, it would have brought him a lot closer. There's confirmation, Cipollini ahead of Konishev and Martinello.
But those 20 seconds should be enough to confirm he's the new leader of the Tour here, but we'll wait and see, as in fact he salutes the crowd for win number 30. Mario Cipollini is back on top, but he's not the leader of the Giro d'Italia because he's 14 seconds short of that. He's in fourth place. The lead stays with Christian Moreni now after 20 hours, and Matteo Tessato is 1 second behind. As we move on now to the 221 kilometer stage from Matera to Bashishi. And in fact, the road to Paschischi is a little bit hilly, especially towards the end. And this man in the pink jersey already in a little spot of bother, Paul, because the first Intergiro sprint today, a win for Ivan Caranta, not so important, but Tessato getting second and a 4-second bonus. If the race finished right now, he would lead by 3 seconds.
But what a move by this man who's been wearing the pink jersey. You know, Cristian Moreni is not going to let it out and hang up that easily. He wants to get out on the attack. The big attack now is coming from this man, Hernan Buenahora, who's trying to get off the front. In fact, this is Kapa Gonzalez, the little Colombian climber, a former winner of the King of the Mountains competition here at the Giro d'Italia. He has now got a slight advantage, and he may well surprise them all, Phil, because there is a very dramatic uphill finish.
Well, it's a good move by him. He's got a little gap and we're on that climb, and Kapa Gonzalez, he's a super climber and former King of the Mountains of the Giro d'Italia and the defending champion of that title as well, and this could be good points for him here as he now tries to escape the field. The pink jersey, he is not going to give up that Maglia Rosa without a real fight, and hats off to him.
Well, he started the day with a 1 second advantage. At the moment, he has a 3 second deficit because of those time bonuses out on the course, but he is not going to lay down arms. He is still attacking, but this is the front of the bike race. This is Kapa Gonzalez, and I have to tell you at the moment, Phil, he's actually going uphill, but you wouldn't think it looking at this speed.
Well, he's being chased by Oscar Ribera, and I think with him there too is Massimo Codel, who got a first win of his career earlier this year in April time. And the field behind there, led by the pink jersey, absolutely defiant as he starts off another day in the pink, but he's not in it as we speak.
Well, he might be in it as we speak, because in fact he's in this small group of riders off the front. In fact, Gonzalez has gone down.
And the pink jersey's gone through. Well, we never saw the crash. Our cameras were back there with the helicopter shot, but now we can. And watch this. What happened on this corner? Jose Kapa Gonzalez, nobody near him. And why he crashed on that corner, Paul, I really don't know.
Well, it just seems as if the back wheel came from underneath. But you know, he was going up that climb so fast, and that is a shame for this man, because I think he had the winnings of the stage. He is now being caught out, but the drama on the course is that in fact the pink jersey is in a small group of riders, and the man who was hoping to take that off him, Matteo Tossato, is in the back group here. The Faso Bortolo team are going to have to do something pretty serious to pull back the pink jersey, because he may well still stay in it tonight.
Well, there was no evidence of the white jerseys of Faso Bortolo there chasing them down, but now they're leaving the pink jersey to do all of his own racing here. Cristian Morena is going to have to work to hold on to his lead, and there's plenty of riders there willing to attack him, as again they launch another attack from the front of the bunch here now. Lamprey are causing trouble. I think this is Mariano Piccoli, isn't it?
It looks like Axel Merckx is in this group as well, Phil. They're inside the final kilometre, and if we finish the bike race right now, well, in fact, the pink jersey will stay on the shoulders of Cristian Morena. Watch out, though. Danilo De Luca's moving forward. Where's number 31? This guy is a fantastic bike rider. He's looking for a last-minute attack, and they're all coming back together. It's all come back together, Phil. They've all regrouped. On the front now, it looks like Vladimiro Belli is leading them round, and Lanfranchi is very much to the front too.
Well, Vladimiro Belli is on the front from Faso Bortolo, and the man who is in the pack here, providing that Morena does not get a bonus at the line, is going to be the new leader of the Giro now, as Belli leads out the squad here now as they come up towards the line. It's going to be a sprinter's delight again. Looks so Paolo Lanfranchi's tucked in there, and this is Danilo De Luca, a man who has promised so much. He's going to take this in the sprint, and a determined effort from Danilo De Luca. He gets in. Belli will be second, and Paolo Lanfranchi is third, and I think that was Francesco Casagrande in fourth place.
Well, it's important to see Francesco Casagrande move. It was Casagrande, a big pressure by him, but this is the man we will talk a lot of in the sport of cycling for the next few years, Danilo De Luca, the new leader on the road, Phil. This is him, Matteo Tossato.
So he takes over a very fragile lead in the Giro d'Italia, but there'll be plenty of more changes to come yet, I suspect. And in fact, Tossato leading in 3 of the 4 competitions. Now, the only one he hasn't got, Paul, is the King of the Mountains. He's on top in the points, the Intergiro, and indeed the Maglia Rosa.
Well, an unbelievable start for that team. This is the first year they've been racing on the international circuit, and certainly they've been put together by the man who many people think is one of the toughest team managers in the business, Giancarlo Ferretti. But this now is 10 kilometers to go, and this is Aliano Aggiano. He's from the Vitaligo Seguros team, and Maximilian Sciandri from the Linda McCartney squad is in there as well.
Well, this is the first time we have had a British-sponsored team riding in the Giro d'Italia. A lot of the Italian teams who didn't make the selection are annoyed at that, and they're off to a bad start too, unfortunately, because they lost 2 riders after the prologue time trial. Pascal Richard and Ben Brooks, the Australian, both out with some form of food poisoning. These 2 riders, though, are clear.
Well, this is a good move for Maximilian Sciandri, because if they do get off the front, he's got a great chance of taking the victory. You know, Sciandri is a very good sprinter in situations like this. Inside 10 kilometers to go, and their advantage, Phil, is not very much more than 15 seconds.
Well, they've been away now for some 12 kilometres and dangling a little more than 20 seconds. Oh, a lot less now. It's only 16 seconds over the main field. Tossato has had a reasonable day out there, but hasn't been scoring any bonus time, so he's going to have to watch here, otherwise he'll lose his overall lead.
Well, I tell you what, hats off to these 2 guys, Phil, because in the main field the pressure has been on for a long time. We've seen a lot of Mario Cipollini's team on the front. 5 kilometers to go to the finishing line, and it is hovering around 10 to 15 seconds all of the time. Sciandri looks very strong, but there on the front of the main pack, the red guard, Seiko Cannondale of Mario Cipollini.
Well, they might well be in line for another win for him here, but there's an attack there by a Stella Italia rider, and this indeed is Fortunato Baglioni, so he's not going to wait for the sprint.
And just on the point of Maximilian Sciandri being caught by the main field, this is the right time to attack. This is a good manoeuvre by this man here. He's got a slight advantage, but you know, in the main field, Phil, the red guard are on the front, and they won't let too many people get clear.
Well, there's a chaser, and again another attack coming off the front of the race here. We've now moved across to the eastern side, and this is an attack by David McKenzie, the former champion of Australia, on the Linda McCartney team. So that's a good tactic.
Well, that's very good. He waited for his teammate there, Maximilian Ciandri, to be pulled back into the fold. But you see the red guard, Mario Cipollini's boys, are really looking for another victory. McKenzie has caught Baliani and gone straight by him, but his advantage really is only around about 5 seconds over the main field.
We are not very far from the finish here. I reckon 4 kilometres or so, and the Seiko boys are taking the train past poor old Baliani. He's got the wrong name, really, hasn't he? Fortunato. And so too Mackenzie is caught. Now they're all together, and again Seiko are firing, looking for win number 31 in a Giro d'Italia for Mario Cipollini.
Well, Secchiari on the front there, he's just swung off. His job has been done now. They're leaving Mario Cipollini up here now. He's in third position, but look right behind him. Ivan Quaranta is looking pretty confident as well, Phil, to try and make himself on the wheel of the big fast man from Italy.
Well, it looks once again as though we're going to have the top boys from the Polti squad here. Martinello and Jeroen Blijlevens are both right up there now as the counter-attacks are coming from the riders from Mobile Veta, because Caranta's in on the mix again this time. Haven't seen too much of him since he won stage 1 of the race, but it still looks to me as though we've got a lead out here for Blijlevens. Blijlevens is third wheel at the moment, and this is not the right way for Cipollini because he's too far down the line.
Well, I can't see Cipollini's wearing the Ciclamina jersey today. The blue jersey of the Intergiro is being worn by Fabrizio Guidi. The Seiko team, Phil, they're looking round. Where is Mario?
He's about 12th down there and doesn't look as though he's going to come out to fight at all today. This is a brilliant lead out. There he is now. He is far too far away because I think it looks as though Konishev has got himself to the front. The 34-year-old Russian who has become totally revitalized this year, and he is taking on Blijlevens for the sprint, and there's a sprinter for you, and he gets it. So Konishev gets in ahead of Blijlevens. Gabriele Massaglia was in third place, and Fontanelli was fourth, and Mario Cipollini absolutely nowhere.
Well, this is unbelievable. There you can see this is Konishev right up against the barriers, and what I can't understand here is Blijlevens goes right across the road, sprinting for the centre, actually travelling a further distance. He comes up alongside Konishev, but even with the throw he can't get anywhere near the Russian. Let's have a look at the side shot of there. In the lunge for the line, it's at least a half a wheel advantage for the Russian. For a man who was about to retire from the sport, Phil, that is amazing.
Well, Konishev won a stage of the Tour de France last year and had 2 other wins, but now he's got his first win of the season, and he must never have believed that possible. What a great win for him. There's the result. He beat, as I say, Fontanelli got 4th, DiBiase got 5th, and Bradley McGee sprinting well there, the Australian in the race for La Française des Jeux. As we now move on to the next stage, stage 7 here, taking the rise from Vasto to Teramo, 182 kilometres, and a long breakaway already in progress. Having broken clear after just 15 kilometres, David McKenzie of the Linda McCartney team is out in front. Paulie's had a maximum lead of over 12 minutes, and that's come down considerably now with 10 kilometres to go. It is down to just on 2, well, they're telling us here, 3 minutes 31 is the gap at the moment.
A very brave move by McKenzie, and I'm pretty certain he's going to survive now, but one man got caught in the middle. In fact, Eddie Mazzolini at one time was closing in on this man, but you know, McKenzie now knows, Phil, he's going to win. Look at the smile on his face. The man driving the car there, in fact, is Keith Lambert, who's flown in for the day to look after the Linda McCartney team as second team manager. Eddie Mazzolini is 2.5 minutes behind in the main field, a further 1 minute behind him.
And this is Mazzolini here. Well, McKenzie started the day 146, 50 minutes and 42 seconds off the pink jersey. He's not going to get too much closer to that as he goes under the 5 kilometres. All he wants to do now is hold on. He's gone through his bad patch. I think he now actually believes he can win this stage, and what a victory it would be.
Well, he shouldn't get caught now. He's inside 5 kilometres to go, and he still has over 2 minutes advantage, but the main field is hammering along at the moment. They're trying to pull him back in. They're taking out the cars from behind this man. Second place on the road for Eddie Mazzolini. He is about to get caught by the main field, but Phil, the gap now is coming down quite dramatically as we see the main field being led here by Mobile Veta, the team of the fast sprinter Ivan Quaranta.
Well, what a great ride this man has done. He won the Giro sprint at 95 kilometres, and then he won the little third category King of the Mountains at Torricella, and now he's only got to think of a stage win here. He hasn't won many races. He's a fairly new professional. He knows Italy very well because he lives out this way and has raced as an amateur here. They know him too, but this is going to really vindicate the Linda McCartney team. He's given them a very early stage win in the Giro d'Italia. The organisers too will be delighted because they too are vindicated by taking this British team into the race. Here he comes on his way home now. He's still got plenty of time. Time to him now is everything because he's not going to be caught. There won't be a pink jersey, but this without doubt will be the greatest moment of his life. 167 kilometres in the lead for David McKenzie. All the time in the world now to wave to the crowd here. He is absolutely delighted. He'll be mobbed by his team when they get to the line, Paul.
Absolutely, great move by him. He was the one who really took the race by the horns, had a maximum advantage. There's his team PR
John
man.
Deering, yeah.
I'm really happy with that. He's happy because today is the Football Cup final in the United Kingdom as well. That blue jersey was a Chelsea jersey he was wearing. This is the big sprint now. The Mobile Veta team on the front trying to set it up for Quaranta. Quaranta's in there very much to the front of the main field.
The race still being led by that 3 seconds overall of Tessato at the moment. Now who's going to take it out here? There's some new people coming at the front. Martinello's come a little bit early, I think, out here. And remember that Konishev is second wheel. He's sprinting so well this year. And alongside Konishev too, we've got Vladimir Duma. There's an interesting name. Look at him, Duma coming off. Nobody expected this man to take out the bunch sprint. Konishev's going to make sure he doesn't. But as he comes up the line, he does get it. Vladimir Duma ahead of Konishev and Martinello. But there's the story of the day. David McKenzie getting the victory, and that is absolutely superb for him.
Well, I do think now that the organisation of the Giro d'Italia, who invited them at the last minute and got an awful lot of criticism, can say, well, this team, Linda McCartney, deserves their place in this year's Giro.
Overall, of course, no change though. Matteo Tessato leads by 3 seconds over Moreno, and Enrique Gutierrez at 14 seconds, Andrea Noah at 25. McKenzie here, by the way, speaking in Italian to the interviewers, and I must say he's a pretty talented guy. Former national road race champion of Australia. Yes, I think you can tell on his face it was rather a tough day out for young McKenzie as we continue on the next stage of the Giro d'Italia. And these riders have shaped the stage today, Paul. 12 of them getting away, 42 kilometres from the finish, and the big favourite here now is Jose Enrico Gutierrez. You caught a glimpse of him there, number 75. He's got Casablanca with him setting the pace. He could be the next leader of the Tour.
Nice to see Axel Merckx in here as well, Phil. Also Mariano Piccoli, but Kapa Gonzalez is in this group as well. This is a very serious move.
Well, this is the toughest stage so far, an enormous distance too at 257 kilometres, which is about 160 miles. And Karsten Kroon getting the first King of the Mountains and hanging on just about to his lead in that now, because he's not in this leading breakaway. As they continue now, an attack here coming now, and it's our old favourite again.
Danilo De Luca is launching himself off the front here. He's trying to get himself the pink jersey as well. He has said over the next few days, Phil, that is his main goal. He came to the Giro d'Italia to do two things. One was to win a stage and the other was to try and get the pink jersey. He has to finish in front of Gutierrez though, because Gutierrez at the moment is above him in the overall standings, and you can see the Kelme riders have got a mark on that man.
And Gutierrez has got a mark on De Luca as well, because there he is, and Axel Merckx and Paolo Lanfranchi, the two Mappe boys, are up here too.
Well, Axel Merckx is riding a very good Giro d'Italia so far. Later on, though, these guys are going to have to turn the roles around, Phil, because they must work for Pavel Tonkov, a former winner of the Giro d'Italia. Paolo Lanfranchi on the far side, 125, looking very comfortable in this group right now. So too does Axel Merckx. But that group of 12 riders has literally exploded.
Well, we haven't seen too much of Pavel Tonkov yet. I hope he's going all right, because these two boys seem to be in a little bit of bother now, because De Luca here is hurting them all. This man is obsessed with the pink jersey, and he says he wants it. And in fact, you've got to hand it to Gutierrez, because I think he's suffering as well, but he's not allowing De Luca out of his sight. Overall, they're split by about 15 seconds.
Well, 15 seconds further back is Maximilian Chiandri, who was in that leading group of 12, and Filippo Casagrande. Shandri obviously bolstered by that win by David McKenzie, trying to stay in with a chance of victory here. If he can just get over this mountain, he does have a great chance to take out another stage victory for the Linda McCartney squad. Here we are, Phil. This is the final climb of the day, and you know it is a very difficult climb because over the top it doesn't plunge straight down in towards the finish line. In fact, there are a lot of false flats here.
Well, this has been a tough stage, and the distance too is going to bite into the legs of the Tour riders today. Paolo Lanfranchi is a tough individual, but this rider here attacks again and launches. He just will not give up. He keeps on putting in these incredible attacks. Gutierrez has dug deep this time because he knows if he finishes with De Luca, he will be the next leader of the Tour.
What a great bike rider, Danilo De Luca. Everybody wants him on the squad. Here is the pink jerseys group. He's having a hard time today. He's got all of his teammates around him. They are just hoping to survive. But you know, at the moment, the group Maglia Rosa is actually slipping away from the leaders. The leaders now are down to 3 riders. Lanfranchi is in 3rd position. Gutierrez is in 2nd position, just holding onto the back wheel there of the man who is flying, Danilo De Luca. The Banesto rider coming across there was Eladio Jimenez, now making a front group of 4. Axel Merckx has disappeared from the group, but he's around about 15 seconds behind.
Well, it was a big group. It's been split up by the attacking of Danilo De Luca. A chance to see the Tifosi here in the Giro d'Italia, as these riders have settled down together to try and split the rest of the field up. That is Eladio Jimenez with them, and this little group reforming at the front. The main field is not in contact yet. They're riding over a minute and a half back.
Well, this is the man who has the pink jersey. He has it by just a fraction, 3 seconds in fact, over Cristian Moreni. Gutierrez started the day off in 3rd place, Phil, and Danilo De Luca in 5th. But you know, we will have to see a dramatic descent. But there's been a crash, and in fact it looks like the Banesto rider trying to get back onto his machine there, and there's a certain amount of chaos.
Well, I think he's been in collision there with the race marshal, and that really is a sad sight here, and spectators as well. Well, that is a great shame, because it was a nasty right-hand bend here, and again another instance of the crowd just getting too close to watch a bike race. He was coming wide for a right-hand bend, and it is in fact Eladio Jimenez who's gone down. I think the stretcher is for the spectator rather than the rider, as the leaders continue on here. Still clear of the field. Very nasty bend that. Very
nasty bend. In fact, 1 or 2 riders getting caught out, but we're still now looking at a leading group of 4 riders, so somebody's made the junction. In fact, Axel Merckx has made the junction. He's managed to get himself back into the leading group, and it's swelling all the time because in fact Castelblanco has come back as well. Chiandri is trying to get across the gap, Phil, right now with in fact Casagrande, and they are 14 seconds behind.
So an interesting little group still trying to get away. Gutierrez and De Luca locked in a personal battle here for the pink jersey. Looking further down, there's Max Chiandri, and it looks to me as though Casagrande tacked onto his wheel.
Well, let's not get the Casagrandes mixed up.
It's
That's Filippo, and it's not Francesco. But you know, Filippo is a very good bike rider. The group now at the front has swelled to 6 bike riders, and these 2 are just hovering off the back. It is so difficult. They're hoping, Phil, and waiting for the descent off this mountain here to maybe take 1 or 2 risks and get themselves back up to that leading group of 6 riders.
Well, the beautiful countryside, that was a glimpse there of Maximilian Chiandri, but this is the little escape now, and the 2 Kelme boys are right up here. Maxwell Works bashing out the pedal revs there. Danilo De Luca, watch out for him. Lanfranchi tagged onto the back as we now come to 25 kilometers from the finish here. These rides beginning to look good now, and in fact a little bit of help wanted from Joaquim Castelblanco. Some information of what's going on behind, I think.
Well, he wants to know what's happening. This is the Mercatoni Uno squad at the front here. The amazing thing is, Phil, Marco Pantani brought in at the very last minute to the Giro d'Italia, but the whole of the team, whenever we see them, they're always riding on block. Now this is a great comeback. This is Chiandri and Casagrande, and they are right off the back of the group. Now we're coming to 20 kilometers to go, and I think they just might make the junction.
They're just about on the tail of this breakaway of 6 lead, and there's been another crash here. That's on one of the bends, and it looks this time in fact as though one of the Kelme boys has gone.
Well, one of the Kelme boys, it was Gutierrez who was down there, but I thought I saw a rider actually off the road at that point.
Do you know, I think both Kelme boys have gone, Paul. I think Casablanca, there's one, and here comes the other one here. No, he's got round safely. Just Casablanca. And again, I think what's happened is they've just knocked down spectators once more.
But you know what? There is another bike rider just off the edge of the road there. You know, the two Kelme riders, the first one to go down was in fact Gutierrez. Castelblanco was at the back of the group, and we now have a leading group of 4. There's a lot of talking going on, a lot of Italians in this group. This is Danilo De Luca. Sciandri has managed to make the contact on the descent there. Lanfranchi is here with, in fact, Filippo Casagrande. 4 Italians at the front of the bike race. Merckx was one of the guys who went down there, and he's trying to pull himself back up to the leaders.
Well, that's amazing, but it looks as though it was Axel Merckx who crashed there with Gutierrez. No sign of Gutierrez yet, and of course Danilo De Luca knows now he is lining up for the next pink jersey, so he's going to drive this race.
Well, Farah has come back on. This is the rider from Viterbo Seguros. He has made it now 5 riders at the front, but certainly I would think these 4 Italians, Phil, will ride very hard together because they've got a chance of having another Italian in the pink jersey tonight, because Gutierrez, who was looking like taking out that lead, is around about 15 seconds behind at the moment, so advantage now tipping over towards Danilo De Luca, who's currently in the front of this group. He's getting very urgent. In fact, he's taking a few risks there, trying to lighten his load.
Well, he almost went down then, actually, as this is Filippo Casagrande, who's up there now. He's still got these 5 riders. There they are for you. Farah is the other man who's just come on. And in fact, these riders not too far ahead because Merckx is trying to get on terms. Gutierrez yet not in evidence at 10 kilometers to go here. It is looking rather good for Danilo De Luca to become the 5th leader of the Giro, and perhaps it's not now because Casablanca has waited for Gutierrez and brings him on at about 9.5 kilometers from the finish, and soon Axel Merckx, I think, might make contact. Oh no, it's a long way.
Oh, it's a long way. It's a long straight road in, and Axel's going to have a very hard time getting on here at the moment. But what a great comeback there by Jose Enrique Gutierrez and his teammate Casablanca. This is the pirate Il Pirata. He's back, you know, Phil. He's in the Giro d'Italia, and he hasn't had very much bad luck so far.
And we haven't seen too much of him either, but the mountains are still to come that matter. Perhaps he's riding himself in because he can't be that much on form. Here's the latest situation, and 48 seconds back now to Susato's pink jersey group. He really has pulled this race back into line, and this has been a good late chase here, but 48 seconds is not enough for him to retain his race leader's jersey. He'd slip probably to 3rd overall at that rate. So they've got to pick up these riders. Now, as we pull back from the leaders, it looks as though Axel Merckx is still in with a chance of rejoining, but he's got a lot of work left to do.
It's very difficult. One man on his own, and let's not forget he's had a crash, but there, in fact, he's pulling them back all the time. Now, look at the power of him here, Phil. He's using a massive gear. I didn't expect him to get back on at the moment. He's around about 100 meters off the back of that group, and if they start to mess around thinking about stage victory in the last 4 or 5 kilometers, he certainly will make the junction.
Well, for me, it looks as though this breakaway is slowly but surely getting itself back into order after its rather rocky ride down the slopes. And Merckx here, ducking and diving through the motorbikes, a quick deep breath in the slipstream, and keeps on chasing. But he is certainly going to get back now, and there's going to be 8 leaders again very shortly.
Well, his teammate there at the back, Paolo Lanfranchi, just has to look around and see the big form of Axel Merckx coming forward, and he should drop off the back just to help him. Danilo De Luca not looking too happy now. He was actually looking at trying to get himself the pink jersey, but he's not going to do that because Jose Enrique Gutierrez, the rider from Kelme, has a much too big an advantage over him. Axel Merckx, though, Phil, what a great job. 8 seconds is the official time gap, but I actually think it's less than that.
Well, it's 46 back to the Maglia Rosa, and that's plus the 8 seconds. And now it's been a really superb ride by Axel. He's got to be proud of this one as he races back up to the group after his tumble on the mountain slopes. And he's done it, and he's got 5 kilometers to go.
Fantastic ride there by Axel Merckx. Absolutely brilliant. The front of the main field at the moment, though, is all red. It's the Seiko Cannondale team, but it's not for Mario Cipollini today. It's for Paolo Savardelli, who now is looking like a very solid leader of that squad, but they are still an awful long way back, and I don't think they're going to make the junction by the finish. There is Il Falco, the Falcon, riding at the tail end of his team there, keeping the pace high, trying to pull it all back together, but now we have a very compact group at the head of affairs.
So this little group of 8, which has now got itself sorted out at last, I don't think that breakaway can close down what is less than a minute now, because only one team is chasing. It looks as though Tusato and his Fasa Botalo team are not chasing these riders down at 2 kilometers to go. and the odds are now that a Kelme rider will pull on the pink jersey, and if it all works out, it should be number 75, who is third wheel right now.
Well, this could be a nice day for Maximilian Chiandri as well, because Chiandri is a very good sprinter, but he always tends to get caught out by a last-minute attack. Danilo De Luca is looking strong, but Merckx is going to have an attempt.
He's having an attempt as you speak, Paul. He's gone to the right of the road, and nobody even took a look at him to react. Now they're going to have to do something about this. This will be an incredible victory if Merckx can pull this one off, because he's come back from the dead today to catch the breakaway at 5 kilometres to go. He's heading into the last kilometre. It's a difficult finish for a man on his own, because he's dead straight to the line, but his father, who commentates here on Belgian television, well, I'd love to be listening in right now.
Well, I think he'd probably stop talking at the moment, because this is the moment when you've got to hold your breath. Axel Merckx has hit them at a very good time. 1.5 kilometres to go to the finish. He's inside the last kilometre now. Big risks going around this corner. He doesn't want to lose too much momentum. He's into the finishing straight right now, and certainly behind there will be starting to pick up the pace for the sprint. Two very good finishes in that group, De Luca and Maximilian Chiandri. Merckx's advantage at the moment is just around about 3 seconds over the rest of the group, and they are picking up the pace.
Well, as Axel Merckx comes to line, it looks as though he is going to pull it off now with 500 metres to go. This will be a very, very satisfying victory, as he beat the sprinters at their own game here. But the way he did it, it just shows you must never give up in a bike race, because he raced back to the group and he's left them in the run into the finish. Ivan Para is setting the chase behind, but he's not a sprinter and he's not going to catch him. Merckx knows it, a wave to the crowd, and then keeps his head down. He can't be sure. He has won only 2 races before this victory in his career, and now he has won a stage of the Tour of Italy. So Axel Merckx can add his name to the list, of which his father has quite a few. And Chiandri, he gets over there in second place ahead of Filippo Casagrande. But that is going to be a superb victory in the Merckx household. Paolo Lanfranchi first to congratulate him.
Absolutely magnificent. Here's the rest of the main field coming in, and you know they're an awful long way behind, 49 seconds in fact, and it's Biagio Conti leads them across the line there. But that is going to cause a change in the overall standings tonight, Phil. But I'll tell you one thing, the bars of Belgium are going to be pretty full tonight.
You bet your life. This man is a very popular rider back home in Belgium, because he is such a quiet and innocent type of guy. There is Dad, and a lovely smile on his face as well. And it looks as though the scars there for you to see on his elbow from that crash. Well, his dad will be very, very satisfied with that, and I'm not surprised. This is the sprint for second place. Chiandri can kick himself now, because he would have won this stage, and he knows it. But he gets second ahead of Filippo Casagrande, and in fourth place came Paolo Lanfranchi. New leader tonight, Jose Gutierrez, is now the boss of the Giro d'Italia by 12 seconds ahead of Axel Merckx, and De Luca up to third. Tessato is down into fourth place. And now it's the mountains at last in the Giro d'Italia. A really tough stage today, which includes the climb of San Pellegrino in Alp, which takes them up to 1,524 metres. And there's also a tough climb to the finish on this 138 kilometre stage now, which takes the rise from Prato to Abetone. A big crowd on the mountainsides, Paul.
Well, everybody waiting for today. This is the first real taste of the mountains at the Giro d'Italia. A Giro d'Italia that really celebrates the disappearance of Gino Bartali, the man who most of Italy regards as one of their greatest ever bike riders.
Yes, he always came to the Giro. He has died just before the start of this event, and Gino Bartali leaves behind many, many fond memories, not just, of course, his great rivalry with Fausto Coppi, but the fact he also won the Tour de France, split by 10 years because of the World War. He was an absolute legend in his own lifetime, a brilliant climber, an outstanding bike rider, and also a great man too.
A man never scared of attacking, and in fact he held not too far away from here, from the San Pellegrino in Alpi, where the riders are right now on the first serious climb of this year's Giro d'Italia.
And they're on the names in the first serious split too, because in fact they've cruised along to the base of the climb, as one might expect. But now they're going to soften up on this climb, and then there's the finishing climb still to come. And it's the first time really, Paul, we've seen the appearance of the clear race favourite, and that's Francesco Casagrande on the right.
Casagrande is on the right. The white jersey there is Vladimiro Belli, but moving forward now as well is the man that many think has got the chance this year, Pavel Tonkov. The highest placed rider in this group at the moment, though, Phil, is Danilo De Luca. In fact, and he is the man looking at trying to get the pink jersey today. He's been looking for the breakaway situation. Axel Merckx has been left behind. So too, in fact, already in difficulty on this climb is Jose Enrique Gutierrez, and Francesco Casagrande is putting the pressure on at the front at the moment, trying to blow this group to pieces.
Well, also here is Gilberto Simoni, who finished third last year, and indeed last year's winner Ivan Gotti. This is a very select group here. Well, Paul's mentioned the name of Pavel Tonkov. This is a man who has this love affair with the Giro d'Italia. Here he is now coming up towards the front. The first time I've really seen him in the thick of things, but he is a man who is consistently placed in the top 6 in this race.
Far side there in the yellow, you can see Stefano Garzelli. The man who hasn't made the split on this first attempt of the mountains is Marco Pantani, the pirate. He's been put into serious difficulty on the first slopes of this climb. That is not surprising, Phil, because after all, he's been out of competition for 11 months. And here is the man who started the day in the Maglia Rossa, Jose Enrique Gutierrez. He at the moment is losing an awful lot of time on the leading group at the moment. Here is the pirate. 139 his number here, and this man came to the Giro d'Italia, Phil, 48 hours before the start, and I'm sure he was inspired by the fact that before the start of this Giro they were all asked whether they would like to meet the Pope or not, and Pantani decided he would come to the Vatican and begin the Giro.
Well, let's hope he can ride himself into form. He's not giving us the indication yet he has those magical legs, and how can he, having really been out of competition for just about a year. Here climbing the mountain now is the rider who was the leader of the Tour, and behind him are Paolo Savadelli. This is an interesting little group, this one, Paul, and it's the first time we've seen the big stars out on the attack. On the climb of the San Pellegrino, they're taking us right up to the summit.
Well, everybody's going to be watching Francesco Casagrande, because at the start line this morning he announced that this was the place where he wanted to take out the victory, to salute the memory of Gino Bartali. Bartali did not come too far away from today's stage, and neither does Francesco Casagrande. There wearing 181, but the control in this group now is coming from the Mape squad. That's Andrea Noe on the front. On his wheel is Pavel Tonkov, but all of the big favourites are here. That in fact is Santiago Blanco in there as well for Vitaligo Seguros. He wears number 192, and there is Gilberto Simoni, third in this race last year and looking for another high place this year.
He really believes he can win this race this year, Gilberto Simoni. But there's a rider who also believes he's going to get that pink jersey soon, in second wheel at the moment behind Casagrande, who looks very, very strong, winner of the Tour of Switzerland last year, and now looking forward to what he hopes will be a win in the Giro d'Italia. He's well placed, but he's got to watch out for Danilo De Luca, who's now up to third overall behind Merckx and Gutierrez.
Another important climber in this group, Leonardo Pipoli, the Banesto rider, wears number 29. He's just on the back of the group at the moment. This is a lot further down the field, though, Phil. The man who started the day in the Maglia Rossa, the pink jersey of leadership, and he's proving to be in serious difficulty. Not surprising after the hard ride he had yesterday, and all he can hope to do today is to try and survive and not lose too much time.
I think you're absolutely right, and just look at the difference in pace here now, because he is something like 4 minutes behind this group at the minute, and this is Casagrande and Danilo De Luca, the next men with a lot to gain if they can keep the pressure on.
Well, Francesco Casagrande is keeping the pressure on at the front. Danilo De Luca will do everything he can just to stay with this group. He is not a great climber just yet. Let's not forget he's a very young bike rider, but he realizes he's in a superb position now, Phil, to try and get himself the pink jersey. The men who were first and second at the start of the day are further behind him down the field, but Francesco Casagrande now is turning up the screws, and in fact a lot of people are having difficulty just following him.
Well, he gives nothing away, does he? But he's keeping the pressure on there and stretching this group out as they climb up towards the summit now, the San Pellegrino. This is not the end of the race, of course. They go down the mountain to the valley, and then they climb up to Abbatoni itself, and that's where you should think of putting in the killer blow. It won't be a sprint today, you can bet on that.
Well, this in fact is Stefano Garzelli here at the front of the group. There is Pavel Tonkov, and you know this group is starting to split completely as we look there at Gilberto Simoni as well. And in fact Casagrande, Phil, has got a slight advantage over the rest of this group, and Danilo De Luca, ride of his life, is managing to stay with him.
De Luca is so determined in this race and so desperate. He's had a marvellous full first week of the Tour, and now he is trying once again to challenge for the Maglia Rosa. But he's got the race favourite now setting the pace, but he's gritting his teeth and he's hanging on just now.
Well, he's inside the final kilometre, not too far to go. He's just got to hold on to the back end of Francesco Casagrande a little bit further. He's not doing it right now though, and this is the very summit, Phil. It is so steep. These final few bends really are agonising, and you know, he's lost the wheel.
Well, he's only 24 years of age, a third in the under-23 championship, but 2 years ago he's made a big jump since then, riding alongside a famous name like Francesco Casagrande. I'm not surprised he's faded a little bit, but he's not that far to climb now.
Well, his legs have gone over the last 300 or 400 metres of this climb, and you know, I think he should be able to make the junction on the descent, because it's a very tricky descent off this mountain here, Phil, of San Pellegrino in Alpi, and then there is just the final climb of the day, which is not quite as steep as this climb, but it certainly is a very long ascent up to the ski resort of Abertoni.
Well, Casagrande pushing on. I'm not sure that Casagrande plans to try and stay away to the end. He might attempt to regroup, so De Luca here wants to keep it going. Sorry about the little bit of a problem with the camera, but that's up to do with the links. There's the Pirates flag flying, but he's not in the group, I'm afraid. He's struggling a little bit behind today.
Well, the Pirates flag is certainly not flying at the moment. I think what he wants to do is try and ride himself into some form so that he can be competitive later on in the season at the Tour de France. He will, though, be a man who will ride himself into condition, and I think really, Phil, that is one reason why these guys have gone out on the attack today, because this first mountain stage is a chance to get rid of Marco Pantani. There's been an awful lot of talk of Marco Pantani over the first week of the bike race, and now we can see finally Francesco Casagrande has got rid of everybody on this mountain climb. He said before the start, this is where I will attack. You know, announcing the colours early like that is a very brave thing to do, but he's living up to it just now.
Absolutely, he sure is, and he's looking over his shoulder here to see if De Luca's coming up, but he isn't. In fact, he's losing ground just now as we twist our way up towards the summit of San Pellegrino. It is a really vicious climb, this one, but Casagrande is looking awesomely strong. Here we come up towards the top of the climb for the mountain point, steepest climb of the race so far. Incidentally, Carsten Kroon, because of all his early points, is still the leader in the King of the Mountains, but we're not seeing him at the front on the steep climbs at all.
Well, it's a long, hard day for Carsten Kroon. He rides for the Rabobank team, the Dutch team. They're not used to the big mountain passes, but at the moment you can see De Luca now has been joined there by Belli and Stefano Garzelli, so they're second, third and fourth on the road. But over the summit of this climb, where Francesco Casagrande has an awful long way to go to the finish, because the summit of this climb is 29 kilometres from the finish line.
Well, Casagrande will have a big question to ask himself once he gets to the top, whether to wait for perhaps De Luca and try and just stay away to the last climb, because he knows he'll drop De Luca on it, or whether it's necessary to regroup with that small group that's chasing just behind. The clock starts under the banner, and this is the winner at the top of the San Pellegrino, and now once he's over the top he starts the plunge down to the valley.
The most important thing for him, Phil, is to try and find out what the time gap is between himself and the group, which is now 3 riders strong behind him. If he has around about the 1 minute mark, then he will keep going, because basically this climb drops right down into the valley below, and it's immediately straight uphill again. He won't have to put too much effort in. You can see now that the next man recovering there on the climb is Gilberto Simoni. He's moving himself up to Garzelli, Belli and Danilo De Luca.
De Luca is still the man for the pink jersey if he can keep control of the escape of Casagrande, because there's no doubt that Gutierrez is out of it now. He is too many minutes behind in the groups behind, and there's still another climb to come. But although we appear to have gone over the summit, Paul, they are still dancing at the front here. The clock has started further back, I think.
Well, it certainly has. You can see this is an unbelievable crowd that have turned out here for San Pellegrino in Alpi. This is the first major rendezvous of the Giro d'Italia this year. Danilo De Luca moving forward there. He's trying to keep himself in contact in this bike race. He knows that if he can stay fairly close to Francesco Casagrande, he can get himself the pink jersey. He's already got himself a stage victory. And further down the road, you can see there, Salvadelli is in serious difficulty. Salvadelli came to this Giro d'Italia as a man expecting to win after a very good performance in the recent Tour of Romandie, but now he's losing time on the first big mountain pass.
He seems to have peaked with his form before the start of the race, because he's been going steadily downhill since he got that narrow defeat in the opening prologue time trial. We've never seen Ruska since. I guess he's waiting for another time trial, because he hasn't been able to live with these boys on the mountains. Now we are coming up to the top of the San Pellegrino, and Francesco Casagrande, who's led for half of it, is now going to set himself up for the cruise down. But, well, will he wait, Paul, or will he try for it?
The important thing for him is just to try and find out exactly what the time gap is. He will get the information passed forward to him probably by race radio and the team manager, who will be right behind him. I think if it's around about the 1 minute mark, he will keep going. Otherwise, he may well sit up and wait for this group of 4 riders. These are some serious contenders now for the overall standings in this year's Giro d'Italia, and there is the leader of the Mercatoni Uno squad, and I think he'll be happy with the fact that he is in front of Marco Pantani, the pirate, who is riding his first mountain pass in the last 11 months.
Well, these guys are only about 20 seconds back. It was De Luca, Simoni, Gazzelli and Belli over the top of the climb, and the climb continues to go on as we go back here now a little way down the road here to find the Maglia Rosa in all sorts of difficulty today. There's still quite a way down the climb.
Well, in fact, the Maglia Rosa is in contact with the pirate. Marco Pantani is in this group here, surrounded by teammates from the Mercatoni Uno squad. You can see them with the yellow jerseys at the front. And in fact, now on the descent of that climb, Francesco Casagrande is flying away, and he has around about a 35-second advantage over the group of behind of 4 riders.
It looks like Axel Merckx is in here too, and he is losing ground and losing his overall position as well. As we go back to the leader now, lessening descending from Casagrande. He's certainly not waiting for them. If they're going to join him, he'll accept that, but he's not going to wait for them.
Well, you got a quick glimpse of the clock on the car there. That was 80 kilometers an hour. That's 50 miles an hour on this descent. A very rapid descent here off San Pellegrino in Alpi, and around about a 15-kilometer descent. As soon as you get to the bottom, there's no flat in this course at all. You immediately turn upwards again, and you've got the final ascent of the day up to Abetoni.
Well, that looked like Ivan Gotti there from the cameras up above, chasing down the mountain, and they're not far behind because they were part. That was a very wide right-hand bend, Paul. He just pulled it back.
He used an awful lot of the road there. He's certainly not waiting for anybody on this descent. He's cutting off the corners. He's over the summit of San Pellegrino now, 1,525 meters, and you can see this is a fairly smooth descent, averaging out at 2 or 3%. Once he gets to the town in the bottom, then it's again straight uphill to the finish line. It looks now as if we still have the same 4 chasers. De Luca very urgently on the front with Simoni and Gazzelli, and of course the man who's managed to get on the back of there, Vladimiro Belli.
Well, let's go back up with the leader here now, because Casagrande is free as a bird at the moment, the Vino Calderola rider, who's come here as the favourite to win, and now he's playing his cards on the 9th stage of the race, the first real tough mountain stage. The San Pellegrino climb is behind. He's won the maximum points there. He is now running down towards the finishing climb up to Abetoni, and that, although not as steep as San Pellegrino, is a really tough climb. It goes right up to over 1,300 meters from a climb, and this crash. This is Moreno. I think it looks like Moreni who's hit a car.
It is. It's Christian Moreni, in fact, the man who was leading this bike race just a couple of days ago. He's gone into a spectator's car at the side of the road. He did not look very good at all, Phil, but I do believe that he is back up and riding his machine, but that was a very nasty crash.
Well, that is a great tragedy. Moreni appears to be riding again, but he's a bit shaky to say the least. There was always the risk of a crash because these corners coming off San Pellegrino are very tight indeed. You need a full concentration on here. As we're looking at the speed now, slowed down to 42 kilometers an hour because we've just started a little bit of a climb again now.
Well, we've got around about 13 kilometers to go to the finish line. We are on the final slopes of the day up to Abetoni, and the advantage the advantage for the moment of Francesco Casagrande is still around about the 1 minute mark. The group has swelled from behind because although Pavel Tonkov was dropped, Phil, he's managed to integrate into the leading group again with his teammate Andrea Noe, and in fact there's a very strong group starting to form behind the lone leader. This now is Andrea Noe digging very deep with Pavel Tonkov in second position here, trying to pull themselves back into the race. But once again, when it comes to the first big rendezvous, Pavel Tonkov is put into difficulty in the climbs.
Well, I'm not sure where the clock marker is, but if it stops we might get some idea, but it's certainly a minute now, the gap as it comes off the screen. He looks very cool and he's pushing an enormously big gear here, Casagrande. He's on his top chain wheel as this group gets bigger and bigger. Ivan Gotti is here, Gazzelli, Simoni is here, and they are getting more and more. There is Belli, number 65. There is Ivan Gotti making a desperate attempt to stay in the picture here, last year's winner.
The other Faso Bortolo rider who's managed to creep into this group is Dario Frigo as well. So Faso Bortolo, despite having held the pink jersey now, are seriously looking about moving another couple of riders forward in the overall standings. Leonardo Pippoli, the man on the back there for Banesto wearing 29, is the little climber, the Italian on the Spanish team. We're inside now, 10 kilometers to go to the finish. But look at that, 1 minute and 43 seconds is the advantage of Francesco Casagrande. He's riding himself into the pink jersey today.
Well, he's certainly, this man here is now 5.5 minutes behind the leader on the road, so he has certainly lost that pink jersey and also any chance of coming back, I think, to win this Tour later, because he's too far down now. Danilo De Luca again has seen somebody apparently come around him and take the spot he's been trying to claim for himself, because Casagrande now is free and is looking like he's going to pull this one off. 5 kilometers to go to the top, and I think he's got the gap now to give him the lead.
He certainly has. He's flying. He's not showing any signs of weakness at all. Marco Pantani, by the way, is more than 4.5 minutes behind at the moment, and we haven't yet gone to the summit of this climb. Danilo De Luca now a little bit broken, Phil. He felt as if today was the day he was going to get his chance for the pink jersey. The team management coming up alongside him. He needed to stay in contact with Francesco Casagrande, but when Casagrande attacked on San Pellegrino in Alpe, there was nothing he could do. That man was flying. We're now looking at Salvadelli. He's also a long way down the climb. I make it somewhat 2 minutes behind at the moment.
Well, that's going to leave a lot of fighting with Salvadelli, but the pink jersey is now over 5 minutes back, so Gutierrez has lost out. De Luca seemed to be the next man in line, but this rider now, Casagrande, only has to finish a minute in front of De Luca to become the new leader of the Tour, and he's got more than that at the minute.
Gilberto Simone is on the front there, and wearing 91, third overall last year. He too is riding high in the overall standings. He feels he's got a great chance of winning the bike rider this year, Phil, because he knows that there are an awful lot of big mountains to come. There's the announcement there, virtual Mayo Rosa on the road. This man is riding himself into the pink jersey. He has to keep going though, because he needs, as you say, about 1 minute advantage over Danilo De Luca. Otherwise, De Luca will be the new leader of the race.
So the winner of the Tour of Switzerland last year is now in the lead here, or he will be, I think, in a few minutes' time, of the Giro d'Italia as he enters the final kilometre now. He has built a big time over the rest. It is over 1.5 minutes now.
Well, that's a huge gear he's pounding there. This is the chase group here with all the other favourites. He's showing himself now, Phil, to be head and shoulders above anybody else in this bike race. He's now just going to solo to victory. This will be a magnificent lone victory for him on the day when he said he would come out and do the business. He certainly did that on San Pellegrino in Alpe. He actually didn't really attack. He rode from the front of that group and blew everybody off his wheel, and then took the responsibility of making a magnificent descent down into the valley and continuing with his effort on the slopes up here to the outskirts of Abetone. He's getting so much closer to the finish. The important thing for him is the clock on the finishing line, and he will then see whether he will pull on the Maglia Rosa.
Well, he needs 1 minute over Danilo De Luca, who is in the chase group behind, down there below us now in the helicopter. Casagrande heading for what will be a first ever stage win for him in the Giro d'Italia. He's just 600 meters away from it now. He has had something in the region of 20 30 wins last year, up till last year, under his belt, and so now he's looking to add one more here. He's already won this year the Flesh Wallon Classic, which he did in April.
Well, most people felt that this man was a serious favourite before the start of the Giro d'Italia, and some people even feel he may well be able to do the double, that is to win the Giro d'Italia and the Tour de France. The chase there behind, all the pressure coming now from Pavel Tonkov, taking the responsibility of keeping the pressure high in that group of what is now 9 bike riders, and all the major contenders, Phil, are in that group behind, and only one man is flying away from them.
And but there are a couple of star names missing from that group behind. Marco Pantani isn't there, Salvadelli isn't there, the current race leader Gutierrez has missed out. They are behind now and losing big time to Casagrande, because he is about to stop the clock, and then the gaps will start to open. This has been a great demonstration, going away like he did on the climb of San Pellegrino, and he was only over the top by about 20 seconds on the chasers, but he made such a descent down the mountain that they lost time rather than pulled him back, and he decided to go all of the way by himself. And now, as he comes up in front of this massive crowd here at the top of the climb at Abetone, he is, I think, going to be the leader of the Tour, but we'll have to wait, Paul, because the clock starts now.
Well, the clock starts now, and the last time check we had was around about 1 3/4 minutes, and it's going to be a long time before we see the rest come in. A magnificent ride there by Francesco Casagrande, and I'm fairly certain, Phil, it's going to give him the advantage, big enough advantage, to take the pink jersey away from Danilo De Luca, who is in this group at the moment. But there are some serious climbers in this group. There is Vladimiro Belli. The sprint is starting now as Dario Frigo opening up the acceleration. Stefano Garzelli in the yellow moving up into second place.
Well, this is going to be, it looks like Dario Frigo is going to get the sprint for second. Garzelli's on his wheel. Is he going to let him have it? I don't think he is, the way he's going. Coming off on that bend, gone round the long way around though, all the long way around. But he's still got the legs. Garzelli coming away for second place, but look at the clock. So there's no doubt now Francesco Casagrande is the new leader of the Giro, and he is the 6th leader. There's the stage result. Garzelli over Frigo, Simoni, De Luca, Gotti, Tonkov, finishing 7th, and Belli 8th, all in the same time. And the Maglia Rosa, confirmed here now, has gone across to Francesco Casagrande, and that was a superb result for him. He's a few seconds ahead of Danilo De Luca. 1 minute 39 over Andrea Noe, and Stefano Garzelli is now up into 4th place. And so we now move on to stage 10, and this is a flat one, and it should be for the sprinters from San Marcello Pistoiese to Padova. 248 kilometres though, Paul. It is a very long way.
Certainly a long way, but certainly a day which is specially made for the sprinters. After the early climbs were left behind them, the rest of the course is fairly flat.
So the riders, when we join the action, are approaching the finish. They are all together, but Carsten Kroon, the leader of the King of the Mountains, has crashed and is riding behind the race, believed to have a broken arm, but he's still on his bike, while the Lamprey boys here now are thinking of Jan Zorada, no doubt.
Well, the man on the front here is Ludo Dirksen, a very strong bike rider. They're setting the pace here for their man Jan Zorada. Also a very big organisation today, Phil, coming from the Faso Bortolo team, the white jerseys there, trying to keep their man Dmitry Konishev right up at the front of the bike race, because for the moment he is the leader of the Ciclamina points competition. He'll be right up there. You can see him on the left hand side there, keeping on the tail end of his boys. But the big organisation, the red jerseys, the red guard of Mario Cipollini, looking pretty confident for Super Mario today.
Well, there's Konishev down the bottom of our picture, looking for another good stage result, and points towards that jersey because he is riding so well in these mass sprints, and that's certainly what it's going to be now, with Dirksen giving us a big turn at the front here and stopping the Seiko train from getting control of the peloton for Cipollini. The big sprinters are still very much in this race, having only had the one serious mountain stage, and they are trying to hold it together. It's the way it's shaping up here, Paul. It's going to be a Zorada-Cipollini confrontation.
This is amazing, though, the turn on the front here being done by Ludo Dirksen, the champion of Belgium for their Lamprey squad. He's keeping the pace on. The amazing thing about this guy, Phil, is he can do a turn at the front for around about 2 kilometres, then he just swings off, looks over his shoulders there to see where the rest of the Lamprey boys are, and his teammate now takes up the pacemaking. There in 4th position is Jan Zorada, and right behind him is Mario Cipollini. A big lineup as well of Polti riders there, and strangely enough it seems as if in fact Martinello is always getting the better of Jeroen Blijlevens in these sprints.
Blijlevens has not ridden well at all here as a sprinter, and that is why he's here, of course. As we look down now onto the back of Gabriele Massaglia, he's given such a lead out there. The team have had to come up to him. He had to wait for them, I think. 3 Lampreys, then about 5 Seiko, and then the 2 sprinters are riding almost shoulder to shoulder, Zorada and Cipollini.
Well, all the riders in there as well for Polti. This time, in fact, Jeroen Blijlevens is up there as well, Phil. Now the big attack coming. This is an attack, a surprise attack coming from the Mercatone Uno boys. This looks like Fabiano Fontanelli who's getting off the front here. He's a very good man at this kind of surprise attack.
He's also had stage wins in the Giro d'Italia before, as Fontanelli tries to take a flyer. That's the way to do it, and he's gone under the kilometre, and he's still got a good lead here. He may have caught the sprinters off guard, because it's Lamprey now who are trying and can't try anymore. They're handing over to a 5-man Seiko train now, and Cipollini could be on for the perfect lead out. It is going to be a rough ride through the finish. Cipollini is the 4th man at the moment. Zorada is the sprinter on the Lamprey team. He is the 5th man, and Fontanelli still hanging on here and is still in with a chance of 500 metres to go. But the final chase down now coming from Seiko. There's a sharp bend coming, and in fact Fontanelli didn't even bother with it. He's allowed them to go through on the inside. This is looking like the perfect lead out now. But watch out for Zverada. He is third wheel here as they fan for the line now at 50 metres, and Zverada takes on Cipollini, and that is Caranta who's come through on the rails. And Ivan Caranta, what a turn of speed that man has. He came from absolutely nowhere, as he did when he won the first stage.
Well, you know, Mario Cipollini has got the perfect lead out here. He's got a man right in front of him. On his wheel there is Jan Zverada. But look at this acceleration now. Quaranta, as soon as he saw the finishing line, he turns on the gas, and he's going around about 5 kilometers an hour faster than Super Mario. Mario looks across and he knows that that's it. He backs off the pace a little bit, and by doing so he allows Zverada on the right hand side to come by. He's going to get second, and Super Mario, I think, has found the man who's going to take over his throne.
Well, Cipollini doesn't like to race for second place. Once he realised he'd lost the stage to Caranta, he sat up. This younger man is showing now in his second Giro as a stage winner how well he can ride, and he tells the crowd as well. Third place going to Cipollini. Zverada gets fourth. There's the confirmation. Zanotti fourth, rather. Blyleven's in fifth. No change at all. Francesco Casagrande keeps the Maglia Rosa in the Giro. So we move on now to the 42-kilometre race of truth, the individual time trial from Lignano Zabbiadoro to Bibioni. Now then, Paul, there might be a change here.
Well, certainly there could be, because you know there are some very good time trialists here, and I think most of the bike riders today would really prefer to be out on the beach rather than riding this very difficult course. It's completely flat, 42 kilometers, and the kind of time trial course that really suits the big strong men, and I think maybe we might see the return of Pavel Tonkov.
Well, you might be right, Paul, but don't forget there is a strong wind blowing over the last 20 kilometres of the course. There's a reminder how we stand in the overall classification. As always, we start in reverse order with the champion so far, Francesco Casagrande, starting last.
This is Sergei Honchar, a very big specialist at the individual time trial, and Phil, this is the sort of time trial that would suit him. A very strong bike rider that used the time trial stages last year to move himself high up in the overall standings. Gonzalez is the early leader ahead of Andrea Perron, and a good ride by Eric Decker in third place, but all of the big names are still to come.
Decker on his way back, by the way, after a broken elbow in the Paris-Nice race this year, so that is a good ride by him. But let's get out on the road. The last 20 kilometres, as I say, is a very strong wind here. So as the riders come round towards the end, they may struggle a little bit. This is Sergei Honchar, and out on the course, and his times at the Czechs are the best. I think we expected that, Paul.
We certainly did. He's a huge bike rider, very strong man, as we see the next guy leading off here. This is Victor Peña, or no, in fact, this is Jan Hruska, the winner of the opening time trial, the prologue time trial. He also is a very good bike rider at this kind of event. This man, though, Marco Pantani, he's about to get caught at the moment. You know, Pantani is riding this Giro d'Italia, Phil, really for a form of training and a form of preparation to get himself back into the overall standings at the Giro d'Italia. This is Thomas Broznia going by him. The intermediary time splits, though, are all tilting towards the advantage of Sergei Honchar.
Well, we expected Honchar to at least do a ride in the time trial, even if it's not going to move him too high up the overall classification this time around. Marco Pantani, and as he comes up here towards the line, it's not going to be a great ride by the Pirates, not the ride that he was putting in last year's time trials, but clearly he is riding himself into the Tour. And there were times when we didn't think he'd get through the first week.
Well, he's still in the bike race, a lowly place for him, 85th place overall. This is Jan Hruska. He also is a very smart time trialist. We saw him win the opening time trial in the Vatican, take the first pink jersey, but the big rivalry he's going to have at the moment is from this man, Sergei Honchar. They are both actually fairly close together, Phil, at the intermediary time splits at the moment, but look at the size of gear that Honchar is using. You know, for a time trialist, he doesn't have the smoothest style at all, but it certainly works.
And Casagrande kicks out of the start house. Last man to go now to wrap up the day's racing. He chases everybody on the course. He was suspect in the time trial in the recent stage races, in build-up preparations for this, and it'll be interesting to see how he will go on this sort of course. Well, this is Sergei Honchar, and already his time is outside the best time at the finish. Hugo Peña is in with 49 minutes 25, so Honchar here has slowed a little bit and is chasing second best time now, and it's that of Gonzalez. So Alvaro Gonzalez has done a very good ride for Vitalicio. They really have done well. They're first and second just now. Honchar, I think, is about to split them at Santiago Blanco at the back, but as they come to the line, yes, Honchar goes second, Gonzalez down to third.
Well, that was a very good ride for him. Over the early part, Phil, he was actually posting very rapid times. There is confirmation. Victor Peña leads at the moment ahead of Honcha and Gonzalez de Galdiano in third, 1:32 down.
And pushing the others down the list as we go back out onto the course again. This is Danilo De Luca, another rider who keeps riding so well, while down at the end of the classification is the pink jersey there of the Giro rider. Now as we go back towards the line here now, this is the continuing arrival here of the leaky gas boys.
This looks like David Rebellin coming in now. Right on his wheel is Paolo Lanfranchi. Not a very good ride by David Rebellin. He's looking at a top 15 spot at the moment. Paolo Lanfranchi, who's been caught, he actually started 2 minutes before David Rebellin, and not a great performance by him. But you can see Rebellin is pushing it all the way to the line. Everybody at the moment is still trying to pull themselves into the pink jersey slot.
Well, I think David Rebellin has lost a lot of ground here, Paul, because there's still a lot of riders to finish as he draws into 15th slot. This man continues to ride well, but his time checks are not rivaling that of Peña or indeed Sergei Honchar. So here's the arrival of Ruska. These are, look at the clock now. This is the prologue winner by that magical 52 thousandths of a second. He is not going to win this though. His teammate Peña still stays number one as Ruska comes up to the line, goes into second now. So again, Vitalicio have first and second on the leaderboard. What a fantastic ride by that team.
Absolutely fantastic. The next man to the line will be Paolo Salvadelli. Not a great ride by him either, Phil. He's going to finish outside the top 30. Well, he just scrapes in 29th, 53 minutes and 30 seconds.
And he doesn't look at all happy with that ride either. But this man is losing ground to a lot of star names now. This is not an outstanding performance by Casagrande at all. He is still in a little bit of trouble out there. Stefano Garzelli also riding reasonably well. At the time checks, he is quicker than Francesco Casagrande. Tonkov too is quicker than both of them, so he also appears to be on a reasonable ride. But the big surprise still in at the finish is Victor Peña. Now it looks like Axel Merckx also down the pan a little way today, as he just about scrapes into the top 30 as he comes in 29th thus far, a stage winner already. Back out to Tonkov on the course. Well, unfortunately, we had no pictures of Peña riding the time trial simply because television cameras weren't rolling when he started today, and he's rather surprised everybody with that ride, including Ivan Gotti, last year's winner. He too has done a ride which puts him amongst the best of the rest.
Well, you know, one man who's got to put in a good performance today is Danilo De Luca. He started the day 51 seconds behind Casagrande. If he can put in a great ride today, Phil, he has got the chance, as we see Gotti coming in there in 17th place. Not a super time trial by him, but Danilo De Luca has a great chance of getting himself the pink jersey. Just 51 seconds separating him from Francesco Casagrande, and at the moment he is actually eating into the advantage of the Italian leader.
Well, here's a good ride from a man we didn't expect it from, Vladimiro Belli. He is coming in with a top performance here, and Belli is doing a superb ride. Look at the clock, look at the place. A 6th place so far for Belli. He should be pleased with that one. I think he is.
Well, that's a surprise to see him so high in an individual time trial, but this is the man that all of Italy is talking about right now, Danilo De Luca. His time at the moment is pretty good, but Tonkov, Phil, coming in towards the end here, seems to have faded somewhat. He's already gone out outside the time of Victor Hugo Peña, and also outside the time of Jan Ruska, so he's not going to finish with a top 3 place.
Well, the leaderboard is now split by only a matter of half a minute or so across a number of riders, and as you can see, Tonkov's time is slipping him away here. He'd be looking to make the top 6 right now as he approaches the time of Vladimiro Belli. Just shows you what a great ride Belli has done, and that really indicates what a bad ride Pavel Tonkov has done, because he normally excels at the time trial. He has only beaten Belli by 4 seconds.
Well, he won't be pleased with that at all. He was hoping today to try and ride himself closer to the pink jersey of Francesco Casagrande. He started 1 minute and 47 seconds behind the Italian, who at the moment, Phil, is having a hard time, but he's actually defending himself quite well. He's not losing too much over the other rivals, and what seems to be happening is we're actually getting a lot of the other guys getting fairly close to the time of Francesco Casagrande at the time checks.
Well, the way the time trial is turning out, Casagrande won't worry too much about Peña, Ruska or Honchar for the mountains of this year's Tour de France, but you never know. As coming up to the line now, and this is going to be a reasonable time.
Stefano Garzelli throws his bike at the line there. His time is 51 minutes and 40 seconds, so that keeps him high up in the rankings. out on the course now. There aren't too many riders still to come in, Phil. This is Danilo De Luca. He is hoping to try and get himself into the pink jersey, but at the time checks, he is actually doing around about the same time as Francesco Casagrande. Casagrande is not a great time trialist, and today he really has to pull himself inside out to try and keep in the pink jersey. Third man from the end, Andrea Noah, coming up to the line.
And Andrea Noah too, finishing a little bit down the field here with 52.07, 16th place. At the time checks though, he is slightly better than Casagrande and De Luca. Here comes De Luca now. It's been a big effort by this rider, but one gets the feeling at his age he is already beginning to get a little bit tired in this year's Giro. He's desperately fought to wear that leader's pink jersey, and now it is slipping away from him, because look at the time. Marco Velo, champion of Italy at the time trial, he's gone by now. Noah next, Ludo Dirksen's also in the 18th best time, and De Luca is going to be slower than that. So this isn't a great ride now, but it won't be far away from the performance now from Casagrande if we go by the time checks.
Well, Casagrande is the next man to come. He was the last man to start in the time trial today, and I think really the pressure of the first 2 weeks, the pressure of the challenge for this man Danilo De Luca to try and get the pink jersey has made it very difficult for him. He has weakened. Now Francesco Casagrande is going to have to time out the clocks now, because he's going to turn into the final straight. He will have to sprint up to the line.
Well, his saving grace, Paul, is that the riders ahead of him who are much faster are not challengers for the final Maglia Rosa, and that's the only reason, because this is not a good time trial by Casagrande in real terms, but he's very lucky that Tonkov really is the only man to have gained significant time who might be a threat later on. Casagrande coming up to the line then, and they're all just about in the 30s. 31st place for the Maglia Rosa, and boy has he suffered today.
Well, I think that face there tells it all, the pressure of that jersey. There's confirmation of the stage finish. Peña ahead of Ruska and Honchar in third place, but you can see this man, we missed him out on the course, but in fact he has hardly ever had any professional wins to his credit, and this is his first professional win in Europe. Most of his other wins have been abroad.
And there's the latest situation now. Belli up to only 4 seconds behind Casagrande. Tonkov only 7. Look at those time gaps, only seconds in it, which really is quite amazing considering the distance we have now covered. 11 stages under the belt, and the riders enjoying their only rest day of the Giro d'Italia before out again on stage 12. This one taking them from Bibione to Feltre, 184 kilometres, and Paul, is a very nasty climb just before the finish.
That nasty climb at the finish is 14.8 kilometres from the finishing line, and these three riders are the last remaining attackers of a group of 24 riders that got clear of the bike race today with 113 kilometres to go. And these guys now fill almost 1.5 kilometres from the summit of this climb, 15 kilometres to go to the finishing line, and once they go over the summit, it's all downhill to the finish.
Well, this is an unusual combination to get such a big group away, but they did, and the reason being the best placed in them is Alvaro Marin of the Sella Italia team. He's 9 minutes behind the overall leader Casagrande. Every reason then for the breakaway to succeed, as these new riders now make the pace up the mountain.
Well, it's Eddie Mazzolini in that group there with Sergio Barbero and Sevilla, the Kelme rider. This is the group that they've left behind at the moment, and one man surviving, in fact doing an unbelievable ride, is the man in the Chiclamina jersey there, Dmitry Konishev. He is having an unbelievable tour.
He certainly is, Paul. It's his 6th day in that leader's jersey, and that's why he's in this breakaway. He's looking for all of the moves to make sure whenever he can be, he's in at the kill to score the points. This is the climb then. Once we're over the summit, we've done 169 of the 184 kilometres, and these three are climbing away at the moment. They've put that group back by quite a few seconds.
Oscar Sevilla is the man on the front for Kelme. What a team Kelme are turning out to be. They're always on the attack. We're almost at the summit of that climb, and certainly Phil, the winner of the stage must come from this group, but they do have just a small advantage over the rest, and the rest of that group has really exploded on this climb. In fact, Mario Cipollini was in the group, and he now, I think, is going to get picked up by the main field.
Well, the clock started there, but Sergio Barbero looking a little bit tired there. He came over the top. There's nobody attempted to challenge Sevilla for the sprint, and Mazzolini used to ride for Seiko, now he's with Polti. He's the rider going through. These three are well clear and continuing their descent further back down the climbs. These are the best of the rest and the remnants of that breakaway as they come up towards the summit.
Well, there's a nice move there by Dmitry Konishev, Phil. He's moving forward there. He's done a great ride today to survive on this climb, because he is not really one of the great climbers of the world of international cycling, and a man who really last year said he was going to retire from the sport. But I think what he wanted to do was do a couple more years with Giancarlo Ferretti. There are the three leaders, and in fact their advantage is not really very much more than 20 seconds over the chasers.
No, it's not, but the main field is still a lot further down that mountain, and the Casagrande taking a lot of thought in the fact that there's nobody up ahead which will damage his lead, which is still a very fragile one in this race. They're at 15 kilometers to go, Paul, so they are nearly 5 minutes behind.
They've lost an awful lot of time, but it's a strange day after a rest day. You know, everybody has very different sensations in their legs. This man is now trying to pull himself back into the bike race. He was in that leading group of 24. He survived over the climb, Phil, and he is now trying to get himself even more points on a day when the sprinters may not have their chance.
Well, Dmitry Konishev is something else in this tour. He's not a man for the overall, but he's certainly a man for that Cipollini jersey, as he now tries to drag the remnants of that original breakaway of 24 up to these three escaping riders. They've just gone past the 9 kilometers to go, and the Mazzolini, here he is trying to freewheel his way to the finish, I think, as Barbaro gives him a little bit of a push.
Well, these riders must take some serious risks, because that group behind is not very far off the back of this leading group of three. You know, Eddie Mazzolini looking over his shoulder there, and he can almost feel the chasers. 30 seconds the official time gap of Barbaro, Mazzolini and Sevilla over the group, which is around about 9 riders strong, I think, and the main field more than 4.5 minutes back.
Well, the chase is on behind, but we seem to run out of cameras today. They're spread over so far. As we pull back from the three leaders with the helicopter now, the others are chasing, and they are getting on. Look at this, because this is a very fast descent, and that man Konishev is leading the charge down here. He's got a Lamprey rider on his wheel as they continue to chase into the group.
Well, you know, the Cipollini jersey is the jersey for the most consistent bike rider in the race, Phil, and you know it's been won in the past by Piccoli, and Piccoli himself is in this group. But if a man like Dmitry Konishev can pick up points on a day like this, he's really going to challenge the sprinters for the overall win in that competition.
And we're looking at the leader, Eddie Mazzolini, trying to pull something special out of this for Polti, where the sprinters Martinello and Jerome Blyleven so far have failed. But I don't think they're going to make the finish without company, because that group behind, led by Dmitry Konishev, is coming down at a rate of knots. In fact, such a rate of knots, the three of them have hooked up now. One of those is Piccoli, he's the fourth wheel now.
Well, that's a great move, but most of the work has been done on the descent by the Cipollini jersey, and the Cipollini jersey is that of Dmitry Konishev. Marin is the rider on the back there for Italia Nectar, but now you can see Mariano Piccoli, he's gone straight by. But look at that, Phil, the response coming immediately from Konishev.
Now with Dmitry Konishev on the front, and wondering who's going to make the first move. Just behind him was Marin. He was the highest placed rider overall, but still a long way behind Casagrande today.
Well, the first man to move is Sevilla, the Kelme rider. He was on the attack just a little earlier, and everyone is going to keep launching attacks like this, Phil, because they realise just how dangerous Dmitry Konishev is.
Well, Sevilla was at the first over the top of the climb in that little group of three of Valico Lalasta. And the bunch, by the way, eventually went over the top 4 minutes 40 seconds back, but they are closing in.
Well, Sevilla's got the advantage right now, around about 3 or 4 seconds over the rest of the group, but you can see what's going on here. Everybody is looking at Dmitry Konishev. They're waiting for him to make all the efforts before the sprint.
Well, Konishev obviously the man to watch here, but now this looks like Enrico Casani also looking over his shoulder and moving up. We're not too far away now. Casani has dived across now to the back wheel of Sevilla. There's a little bit of a gap here now, and the fact Casani hasn't waited and he's gone. This could be an Italian victory.
Well, that was a good move. As soon as he got onto the back wheel of Sevilla, he went straight over the top there. Now he has an advantage of about 10 bike lengths over the Spanish rider. The Spanish rider in second place on the road, Sevilla, but behind it's Konishev who has to make the effort if he's going to pull back this Polti rider.
So Enrico Casani is moving clear now, a rider who's never won a bike race in his career, and it started in 1997, and he's in the last kilometre, and it could be reality now because they are still wasting time.
Well, they're all sitting up, they're all waiting for the effort to be made by Konishev. Konishev is the fastest sprinter in the group, Phil, and they're all queuing up right behind him. Casani has hit them, and he's hit them hard. He just waited for the moment when Sevilla was starting to fade. He came up to the Spaniard's back wheel and went straight over the top of him.
Well, the Danish flag flying there, but there's no Danish cyclist in this breakaway. And it looks as though Enrico Cassani, the Polti rider, is going to win this stage. He's 28 years old and he's never won a race before. The long, thin line of riders here now as they race towards the line. He is still clear, and I don't think they are going to catch him in the narrow streets either.
Well, his teammates on the back there, Eddie Mazzolini, he's over the cobblestones now. He can see the signs ticking by the meters as he comes into the final straight now. 250 meters to go. He's timed it to perfection.
Well, you know, I guess they didn't realise just how strong this man. They didn't mark him at all because they didn't expect him to take this one out. He wasn't a marked man, and now he suddenly realised that he is going to run out the winner of the stage and take it well. And the sprint behind, it's Bramati, I think, who got in there just ahead of Dmitry Konishev. Little salute too from Mazzolini.
They had Giano at the back there, but this man timed it to perfection. The first win of his career, Phil, and when you do get one, you might as well make it a big one.
Well, absolutely. A stage in the Giro d'Italia. The peloton are in and over 4 minutes and 47 seconds to the middle of the bunch there. This is how he won it. Just made sure nobody was going to take him on. And as they come up for second place there, David Bramati of Mape just squeezing in ahead of Dmitry Konishev. Well, like everything else in the Giro d'Italia, there's a large bottle of champagne here. Half of it's gone already. He's never done this before as a pro bike rider.
Well, when you get a win, it really is a good one. That was a very smart move by him, Phil. And fortunately for Francesco Casagrande, no problems at all in keeping hold of the pink jersey of leadership.
No, the break working out well for him today. They were timed at 1 second behind Cassani, but for Casagrande, nobody in that breakaway, which was away for much of the stage, who affected him. But maybe the mountains now, as we head up towards the Dolomites in the Giro d'Italia, perhaps Casagrande will have to come out once again and show us just how good he really is in the mountains. And it's the 5th day in the leader's pink jersey, and what a day this one is, because we climb 3 first category passes, beginning with the Falzarego onto the giant Marmolada and finishing on the Sella Pass. It's on 186 kilometers today as we join the race here. 2 leaders, Gonzalez and Brogina, heading up as we go over the top of the Falnarego Pass. 110 kilometers covered.
Well, the interesting thing is that, in fact, this is the remainder of a 7-man group, and once again on the attack, Dmitry Konishev. This man, Phil, is looking for points every day. It doesn't matter whether it's a mountain stage or a sprint stage, and he goes over the top of that pass, the first major pass of the day, in 3rd spot.
But the pink jersey group is timing at around 1.5 minutes in a small bunch, and the main field 3 minutes 40 seconds, because everybody worried after this very tricky descent here. We run down to the start of the climb of the Marmolada.
Well, the Marmolada going up to over 2,000 meters in altitude. That's more than 6,000 feet, and it is an unbelievable climb. But I think what is more difficult is the fact that you've got the Marmolada immediately followed by the Passo di Sella. You can see for today that the pink jersey's got all of his men around him, the guard who will look after him on all of these mountain passes, and the man he will count on the most, Phil, I have to say, is Roberto Conti.
And it will come as no surprise if I tell you that Mario Cipollini failed to start this morning. Took one look out of his window, I suspect, and saw the mountains and decided to return home.
I think it was that bad allergy coming back to him. He's got a serious allergy problem when it comes to looking up to the big mountain passes. But it's as if this group now is starting to come back together again on the descent, you know, and I do feel that the man who has made the junction is Dmitry Konishev, and that's amazing, Phil, on a stage like this. Konishev is like the young man that he was about 10 years ago.
Yes, he's never ridden such a good race for a long time, but he's certainly looking good now and consolidating every day his lead in that points competition. But now it's a big battle for the overall, for who will wear the pink jersey tonight, and this is a good chance now to see if any of the riders are able to take on the challenge laid down by Francesco Casagrande.
Well, this is a chase group out on the road trying to make their way across to that leading group, which at one time had more than 3 minutes on the main field, but I do feel certain, Phil, that this will start to come down before the finish. This is the man who has really been the man of the match over the first 10 days of the Giro d'Italia, Dmitry Konishev, the sprinter, the man of the flat stages, and yet every time there's been a mountain so far, he's been out on the attack.
Well, looking back here now, the pink jersey, 2 minutes plus still back to Casagrande. He doesn't look too concerned with the way things are going. Back up to the leaders now, Jaime Gomez Kapa Gonzalez, as we know him as, is the former winner of the King of the Mountains on 2 occasions. And a little bit further down the road now, we're looking here at Noncentini, Paul, from the Mape team.
Well, he was earlier on in that leading group of 7 riders, so he has now been pulled back into the fold, the group of the pink jersey, and the first man to catch him was his teammate Paolo Lanfranchi. Lanfranchi is riding a very good Giro d'Italia right now, and he is in this group with Noe, you can just see on the right-hand side there, and Pavel Tonkov. Roberto Conti is the man on the front setting the tempo, and he is really looking after his man in the pink jersey, Francesco Casagrande.
Well, we're just inside 50 kilometers to go now, and in fact Casagrande looking to make his move, I think, to start closing that gap down. He's allowed it to run enough times. He must be a little bit worried by Kapa Gonzalez. Everybody else I think he'll feel pretty content with, because the majority of the other challengers are not too far away from his side. Back up to the leaders here now. This is Brogina.
And in that group as well, Ricardo Ochoa. He's the Calme rider, but the face of Francesco Casagrande, Phil, right now doesn't give very much away at all. He looks very comfortable. He proved over the San Pellegrino in Alpi that he is in very good condition over the big mountain passes. In fact, though, he is a little bit isolated. He only has one teammate in this group in the shape of Roberto Conti, and the 3 leaders now have an advantage of around about 1 minute over the main field.
And this is the middle of the pack here, and they're looking a little bit unhealthy while at the front now, followed by Tonkov. Casagrande is launching the attack. We're approaching now the slower slopes here on the climb of the Marmolada. It starts very steadily, but Casagrande has not waited long here now to try and put matters to rights.
Dario Frigo is the Faso Bortolo rider there, but you can see how attentive Pavel Tonkov was. A quick glimpse of Axel Merckx going straight back through the main field there. He was caught after an early attack on the first slopes of this climb, but riding their way back up there is Hernan Buenahora. Now they've responded to that attack by Francesco Casagrande, and it seems as if the whole group is now going to stay together.
Well, look at this now, Casagrande just preparing to do what we saw him do on the San Pellegrino, and that's try and ride everybody off his wheel. Ivan Gotti always smarting a little bit when people didn't think his win last year was justified because of the late disqualification of Marco Pantani, but he has won the Tour before. He's had 2 Giro wins, trying to make an impression here now, but he still has a lot of work to do. As the group, Gazzelli is also here now. Pavel Tonkov just on the back of this group, I think.
Well, you can see now that in fact Casagrande is missing out on the fact that he doesn't have too many teammates. In fact, nobody has very many teammates left at all, because this acceleration has actually blown the group to smithereens as Casagrande sets the tempo on the front all on his own. There is Gotti on his left-hand side. On the far side is Gazzelli. Buenahora has moved up here, and a nice recovery there by the man in white from Faso Bortolo. That is Dario Frigo, and he's climbing himself high up in the overall rankings here, Phil.
Well, Frigo's having a pretty good tour right now, but again Casagrande is using the same tactic of setting the pace. So often climbers like to set the pace and see if they can ride the riders off the wheel. They don't like to be dictated to because they can't rise to the speed of others. And Gazzelli there, though, looking very, very good and matching him wheel turn for wheel turn at the moment. Gotti to me, Paul, doesn't look that good. He looks as though he's struggling here.
He looks as if he's pretty much on the rivet, but at least he's in the front group at the moment, because I think once again Pavel Tonkov has been put into difficulty because of that acceleration. Tonkov here doesn't really show any emotion at all. He's sitting down, ticking out a fairly sensible tempo, but he is not able to stay in contact with the pink jersey at the moment. Now this is a major surprise, because a lot of people felt that this guy was a big chance for him to come back and win this bike race again. He's got Paolo Lanfranchi in there with him, just trying to pace him a little bit more, hoping that he's going to recover.
It doesn't look to me as though he's going to recover right now, because he is starting to slip away here. The Mape team are very unhappy with his riding just now. They don't feel as though he's putting his back into the race. Well, I'm not sure he can do, because if that's Moto 3, that's the 3rd camera bike on the road. He is now losing serious ground on these 3. Little bit of a surprise to see Gazzelli riding so well. Another man who's won the Tour of Switzerland, like the man who's leading the pace here. And Gotti, well, I reckon he's there purely because he's a proud man and carries number 1.
Well, he certainly has. He wants to try and win this bike race again. He felt very confident before the start of the Giro, and you know, I don't think his time trial was all that good. He may well improve as we get closer to the end of the Giro d'Italia, because one thing you must not forget about the Giro, it is a very different race to the Tour de France. All of the big climbs, Phil, come in the last 3 or 4 days, and this race can get completely turned upside down. But Francesco Casagrande at the moment is proving to be the strongest bike rider in the race, and he's putting serious time between himself and his closest challengers.
And a bit of a Mapo tempo ride now as they try to rescue Pavel Tonkov and do something with him here. But he's a long way back, and up comes the pink jersey now, beginning to start to pick off the riders from the original breakaway. This is the way Francesco Casagrande had decided he wanted to do it. He gave them quite a lead at the bottom, but now he is starting to ride past them one by one. This is Santiago Blanco. He attacked earlier on and is now about to be picked up by the Maglia Rosa of the Giro d'Italia, and he looks to be riding with such ease.
He's just setting a nice steady pace there, and he's not even attacked, Phil. He's just riding a tempo, his own tempo, just to keep the race going together. On his wheel, though, in fact, the man who is in second position there is the man who is the leader of the Mercatone Uno squad, Stefano Garzelli. Marco Pantani has been left an awful long way behind already. He's at the moment said to be 2 minutes behind this leading group. But Phil, look at this. Pavel Tonkov looks as if he's absolutely stopped.
Well, he's on the Marmolada, and I think he really has hit the wall just now. He started to crack very early on. This rider's not put a wheel mark wrong just now. Remember that the top of the classification is not big gaps, but it might be by the end of this stage. Once over the Marmolada, we then will move on to the Sella Pass and then head down for the finish in Salva Gardena. And I think that today Francesco Casagrande has tried to put the record book straight.
Well, he certainly is trying to blow this race apart. Gotti is now starting to look in difficulty. He's just hoping to stay in contact with this train. At the moment, we still have a group of riders off up the road, but this is the battle for the overall standings at the Giro d'Italia. The pink jersey on the shoulders of Francesco Casagrande, and further down, the man who thought to challenge him here, Pavel Tonkov, is in all kinds of difficulty. He can't stay with his own teammates, Paolo Lanfranchi and Andrea Noe.
And look at this now, and that spectator got pulled out the way, but now Casagrande is keeping the pressure on. Garzelli is struggling. I think Gotti has gone. Gotti has lost the wheel there, and Garzelli has done well to come back. This is Dario Frigo again here with Santiago Blanco.
Well, Dario Frigo was with that group for a while. He's riding his own tempo. He's not actually losing too much time. He's riding a very sensible pace, but he's not trying to follow the accelerations at the front coming from this man. Francesco Casagrande is tapping out the tempo on this climb at the moment, but in fact Ivan Gotti, Phil, seems to have recovered a little bit because he's pulled himself back up to this group, and we're now looking at the 3 top men in the Giro d'Italia, the 3 big climbers. Further down, Santiago Blanco has done his job for the day, and I think he will disappear from the action. But Dario Frigo is riding on. He's keeping himself in contact with the bike race as we get towards the summit of this very difficult climb of the Marmolada. But let's not forget, there's another tough climb to go, the Passo di Sella.
Well, Casagrande now heading up towards the top of the Marmolada. He set a tremendous pace here, and looks as though Garzelli is the only man able to hang on to him here as he continues the lone trail up the mountain. The crowd, as you can see, wearing the racing capes and keeping warm because it is very, very cold up here. Not far off to the left and right of the riders, we can see the snow, but I'm quite sure that Casagrande is feeling pretty warm deep down. This is Dario Frigo, becoming something of a special ride for him today, as he also tries to keep in touch with the 3 leaders.
Well, you could see there that Gotti was really trying to stay in contact. He was just going off the back wheel of Stefano Garzelli in the yellow jersey. Dario Frigo is doing a very sensible ride here, Phil. He's not panicking at all. In fact, he's just making sure that he doesn't lose too much time on these slopes. And I've got the feeling he's actually starting to pull himself back into this bike race. Now, this is going to give him a very high place in the overall standing. Another attack comes from Casagrande.
Well, we're heading up to the summit, and this is for the first man over the climb here. Casagrande is now going clear. He has set the tempo all the way through the field as Casagrande goes over the top. Garzelli won't give him an inch at all, goes over second. There's a bit of a time gap, though, back to Ivan Gotti, who did well to even get within touch of them. This is Frigo, so Gotti is just under that banner there, and Dario Frigo is going to go over somewhere around 15-20 seconds behind, but a lot of fight in those legs. He might get on the way down.
Well, if he takes some risks with only 20 seconds, he should be able to do that. But what a great ride by this man. not a name we would have expected to talk about over the big mountain passes. Ivan Gotti as well, you know, he's really recovered, Phil. He's managed to keep in contact with this group of riders, and now he will hope to recuperate on the descent. But after that, once they get to the bottom here, they've got a very difficult climb, the Passo di Sella, which actually goes up a little higher than the Passo di Marmolada to 2,213 meters.
Well, there's the result over the top, and they're continuing to race on here. Now you can see a little bit of the snow lying around the Dolomites. They're a beautiful stretch of mountains, but they don't have much vegetation on top because they're covered in snow for probably 7 months of the year. Now this is still Dario Frigos trying to get back on terms with the three leaders. They're certainly not waiting for anybody, are they? And there's the 32nd group back to the rest of the race, which has been blown apart, quite frankly, on the climb of the Marmolada. And I think Tonkov may be in that group at 30 seconds.
Well, Tonkov is going to have to take some serious risks on the descent of this climb if he wants to stay in contact and possibly win the Giro d'Italia for a second time. The man doing the great ride there, Phil, we just caught a glimpse of him, was Dario Frigo, and there is the Tonkov group a little further down the road.
So Tonkov may get back onto terms here with a little bit of luck, but the seconds that were in the overall classification are going to open up tonight, and it's still going to be the same man in the leaders, pink jersey, Francesco Casagrande. In fact, Ivan Gotti will have a little acceleration up the overall classification himself, and he's got a bit of time to make up too on Casagrande, and don't think Casagrande doesn't know it.
Well, in fact, we're getting information that Marco Pantani has completely disappeared away from the bike race, and the last time check we had, he was more than 8 minutes behind. So I think for Marco Pantani, Phil, he's just going to have to try and ride through this Giro d'Italia and look a lot further forward to the Tour de France. And if he can ride through the Giro d'Italia, he may well get the form to make him competitive later in the year.
It's all a question of whether his head's in gear with his legs, I think, Paul, but let's hope he does come back because he's such a magical climber on his day. Anyway, a great chase by this newcomer, or something of a newcomer, in Dario Frigo. He's now got himself up to Gotti, Casagrande and Garzelli. A very good fast descent. He obviously smelt the riders and he's come and caught up with them, and he's ridden extremely well here. And this is back to the next group on the road now, which seems to be led by Paolo Savadelli. There's Buena Hora is in this group. It's quite a large group here. So too is Simoni. And I think, well, 35 seconds is not a lot. They could all get across here before the next climb.
I think they will get across before the next climb, because in that group Paolo Savadelli will lead on the descent, and he is an unbelievable downhill racer. His nickname is Il Falco, the Falcon, because of the way he plummets off these mountain passes into the valley below. We're almost at the bottom of the climb there, and in fact the other Mape rider in this group with Pavel Tonkov is Chan McRae, so he's having to work for the team today.
Yes, McRae's having to be the brilliant team man to try and get Tonkov back in. The Mape team is totally behind Tonkov, but whenever he tries to get in with the sharp end of the action, he does not seem to be able to do it. That's 25 kilometers to go there, and we're going to have a coming together.
Well, a good work being done there by Chan McRae. McRae now pulling off, and it's Tonkov himself taking over the chase, and he's about to make the contact with that leading group of 4 riders. That is the group of the pink jersey of Francesco Casagrande. And you know, Pavel Tonkov may well have just had difficulty on that one climb and may be able to recover, because you know the Marmolada is a very difficult climb. It's a very steep climb, and I have a feeling that we might find him being a little bit more competitive on the next climb of the day.
Well, here's Casagrande, and they're all tagging on. He's taking one look over his shoulder, and a little bit of a surprise there for Garzelli. He wasn't expecting that, I don't think. Dario Frigo, who has had a couple of wins this year in the Tour de Campania and the Giro del Trentino, Tour Trentino. And another attack going, and this time now it is the leader of the Kelme squad who has launched it, Jose Luis Rubira. He's waited while they've all regrouped, and now he's hit them again on the climb towards, well, not quite towards the finish, because once over the top of this one, which is some 15 kilometers uphill, they then plunge down to the finish in Selva Gardena.
Look at that. You know, they all looked across at him, but everybody must be having quite a hard time at the moment, because nobody got out of the saddle at all. They saw the attack happen and nobody wanted to respond, but somebody has responded, and this looks as if it may well be Santiago Blanco again who is coming across there. The Spaniards, Phil, are on the attack every time there's a mountain pass, and nobody now in this group wants to chase, but they're going to have to pick up the chase a little bit later on, you know, because Rubiera is fairly high in the overall rankings and could be a danger.
Well, I'm surprised that Blanco here can find the strength to have a go. He's just been brought back. I thought he'd blown on the Marmolada. Obviously recovered, caught him with that third group, and has come back up to the leaders and recovered well enough to go now with the move. And I would think that Rubira will be pretty happy he's got a second pair of wheels to help him out here.
Well, in that group, Vladimiro Belli is the other Faso Bortolo rider, and trying to get across now. Andrea Noe has launched the attack off the front. Now, this will take the pressure off Pavel Tonkov, because that means then that the Mape team won't have to chase after those leading two riders. But you can see Noe is not getting that much of an advantage over the rest of the group there, and I'd like to get down there right now and just see exactly who's going to take up the pacemaking.
And that's what they're thinking, I think, Paul, at the moment, because the pink jersey, strangely enough, is now taking a quieter step here. He's waiting for the others to make the move. And well, there we are. We've got a move being made, and he's immediately followed. And that's Ivan Gotti. I'm not surprised Casagrande has responded to him, because Gotti, who was struggling on the climb of the Marmolada, he was dropped by 15 seconds, also trying to launch an attack.
Well, moving right up onto his wheel there was Pavel Tonkov. So Pavel Tonkov may well have recuperated somewhat, Phil, because the Marmolada was a climb that was just a little bit too steep for him. In this group as well is Hernan Buenahora and Stefano Garzelli on the left-hand side there. Moving forward now is Gilberto Simoni. Third overall in the Giro d'Italia last year. Now he wants to get out on the attack and start to stir things up.
Well, there's the face of Simoni, third last year in this race. He would have been fourth, but for the late disqualification of Marco Pantani. He's also trying to gain a little bit of time here. Well, Casagrande can't let these riders go too far ahead. Certainly not Simoni. And another attack again. This time it comes from our old friend Hernan Buenahora as he now moves clear. It seems odd to see him in the colours of Stella Italia. We're so used to seeing him in the green and white of Kelme. But that is a good little climber there, and the breakaway immediately jumping on him.
Well, this is Gilberto Simoni, a very tough move by him. This man is trying to ride himself up into the high rankings of the overall standings. There are two riders up the road at the moment, Jose Luis Rubiera and the man who got across him was Santiago Blanco. Now it seems to me, Phil, as if the pink jersey here of Francesco Casagrande is in a little bit of difficulty, because he doesn't have any teammates in this group at all. He doesn't have anybody who can help to set the pacemaking on the front. Now Garzelli thinks he can go.
Well, Garzelli, another rider who is beginning to look good now, and Marco Pantani has said he would like to see Garzelli win this race. Well, he's not a rider we would have put down as a #1 contender, but look at the way he goes here. He's gone again, and clearly Casagrande fears him because he's come straight up to him.
Well, Casagrande's got to respond to these attacks now. He shouldn't have let that man Gilberto Simoni get off the front, though, because Simoni, I think, is a serious challenger. Third overall last year, and he's obviously looking to go a little bit better this year.
Well, we're looking here now at Santiago Blanco. You see the little didgeridoo underneath the bottom bracket there? That's a transponder which times the riders on the climbs this year, which is how they're judging the King of the Mountains. The trouble is they haven't made the little machinery compulsory to be worn by all of the riders.
Well, Ivan Gotti again trying to go off the front here. Immediately, though, you can see the pink jersey of Francesco Casagrande responding to that attack, and it all comes back together again. The head of the race, the leading two riders, have a 15-second advantage over Gilberto Simoni and the main group of the Maglia Rosa at 30 seconds at the moment. Santiago Blanco seems to be in a bit of difficulty here, Phil, staying with his partner in the breakaway, Jose Luis Rubiera. Now, these two guys are very good climbers indeed, and the man starting to make the difference in the gap getting across to them is this man here, Gilberto Simoni. Wears number 91. He's the leader of the Lampre squad, and Buenahora thinks, well, this is the time for me to go as well.
And he's got a nice little gap at the minute, but you know, we're seeing here the select group of the Giro d'Italia, because everybody else is out of the hunt now in this race. The last time check on the main body of the field was 18 minutes back. So we're looking here now at the real creme de la creme, and this is Gilberto Simoni, who has, as Paul said, finished third last year, and is now trying to gain a few seconds, because a few seconds here and a few seconds there, and Casagrande will lose that leader's pink jersey.
Well, Ivan Gotti, I don't know what he had for breakfast, but he's out on the attack again now, trying to get away from Francesco Casagrande. He's attacked Casagrande about 4 times so far, but every time the man who leads the bike race has managed to respond. He's come out and he's pulled himself back up to the man who wears #1 as last year's winner. And another attack coming to the pink jersey. This time it's Stefano Garzelli. Francesco Casagrande, Phil, is being put under pressure today on the final big climb of the day, the Passo di Sella.
Still 6 kilometres to climb from that 20-kilometre banner, and then the plunge downhill to the finish. And it looks as though Buenahora is about to be brought back to the fold, but not without a fight. He's going to keep the tempo on there. 1 or 2 riders suffering at the back of this group, which is getting smaller by the minute, and all because of the tempo being set by Garzelli and Casagrande and these incessant attacks coming from Ivan Gotti.
Well, that gives you an idea of what the Passo di Sella is like. We're halfway up it at the moment, and the man making the difference here is Gilberto Simoni. This looks very much like Hernan Buenahora. He's been trying to blow this race to pieces at the moment. He's an exceptionally good climber, a man we've seen on many occasions at the Tour de France, and here riding for a new team which is made up basically of Colombian riders with a few Italians as well, the Selle Italia Nectar team. There are 5 Colombian riders in this team and 3 Italians.
And they're all pretty good climbers. Now look at that. De Luca was near the front of this group. He's not quite as far back as everybody else, but I think today he's lost his part in the Giro as well. Nearly 4 minutes back for poor Danilo now. He's still so young, and this race getting a bit too far for him. And back up towards the top, as this is Gilberto Simoni, and now back to the very front. I thought for a moment that perhaps Santiago Blanco had been dropped, but no, the 2 riders are together.
Santiago Blanco is putting the pressure on here right now, and it looks as if Riviera is the man in difficulty. Getting out of the saddle now on the steeper part of the climb, just trying to keep those gears ticking over as Riviera gets out of the saddle too to bring himself back up to the tail of his compatriot. So the Spanish, Phil, really are the aggressive teams when it comes to these mountain stages, and the man who at the moment is making the best move up the overall standings is Gilberto Simoni there. But this group seems to be swelling. In fact, I thought I caught a glimpse there of Sergei Honchar, who rode a very good time trial a couple of days ago, and he now is in this leading group, which is starting to swell. But Simoni has made the contact.
Well, that is a very good ride by Honchar. If he's got into that, we don't really consider him as a top climber, although he's on his day he's had some good results. Now it looks as though there's 3 at the front now, as Simoni has got across to the 2 leaders with a fine demonstration of climbing, and he's going to hit them straight away and see if they've got any legs left to follow him. Well, we might have. Riviera is going to go after him. They make climbing look so easy, these 3, and Santiago Blanco surely can't go again because he has been struggling on the previous climb, yet on this climb it clearly suits him better.
Well, it's all a question of the gradient, you know, because certain riders can climb on certain slopes, and I think today we've found that he is actually quite at home on the Dolomites here. You know, Francesco Casagrande, Phil, is going to have to respond. He has done. He's going clear now with Stefano Garzelli, but in fact Gilberto Simoni started the day in 11th place in the overall standings, 1 minute 44 back. So Francesco Casagrande is going to have to respond to an attack like that.
Yes, he is, and I think the Lampre team car giving Simoni the advice there of what is going on, but I wonder if they realise that Casagrande has gone and taken with him Garzelli, who seems to be very strong on this climb, but they've got rid of Gotti now, a chance to gain time over last year's winner.
In fact, I think here Garzelli is a lot stronger than Francesco Casagrande. He's matched the attack there of his compatriot, the rider on the Mercatone Uno squad, and in fact the acceleration at the front here from Gilberto Simoni has got rid of Santiago Blanco. 2 riders leading the bike race, and finally the Devil makes his appearance. This man is a German, and he's a major feature nowadays, isn't he, Phil, at all the major tours that we go to.
You can actually buy little Devils off him now because he's got into the production of his own toys, I think. But while the 2 leaders are clear now, Buenahera is about to be brought back to the fold by just 2 riders. The pink jersey of the race leader and the yellow jersey of the Mercatone Uno's Garzelli. And it looks as though these boys are in a spot of bother now because Tonkov is there, and Gotti, Savadelli and Frigo are all hanging back.
Well, they're all having a hard time staying in contact. The man on the front of that group was Leonardo Pipoli, a small climber from the Banesto squad. This now is the counter-attack coming across here. They've joined Buenahora. Stefano Garzelli looks pretty good here, Phil, on the slopes of this climb. But the face of Francesco Casagrande does not give anything away at all. He's quite happy to sit on the wheel of the man who wears 131, who he hopes is going to pull him back up to the 3 leaders.
Well, there's been fine pacemaking here, but I wonder if Garzelli is overdoing it here because Casagrande is a wise old owl. He knows what he's doing. They both won the Tour of Switzerland, by the way. That's their biggest previous victories in the stage race. Up with the 2 leaders now, and Simoni is doing a lot of work up here, and Riviera getting a little bit gangly on the machine there, as if he's under pressure.
Well, this is Il Falco, the Falcon, Paolo Savadelli. He's moving off the front of the group now. He is the kind of rider who, if he can go over the summit, Phil, not too far behind them. This is the attack that we just missed a few moments ago. He's the man who many felt was a great challenger for the overall victory. He's already lost quite a lot of time so far, but he could ride himself back into the standings with a great descent off the summit of this climb.
Well, Simoni here is climbing himself up to a high place in the overall classification if he keeps it. There's the crowd on the top of the mountain, and then we're just about 14 kilometers downhill to the finishing line. A massive crowd because again on a mountain here in the Dolomites, it is very, very cold indeed. Here they come, 15 kilometers to go, so that's probably also the last kilometer of the climb as they go through the two leaders now. Still Simoni doing most of the work. Rubiera, since he made the attack, has been caught by Simoni and not riding quite so well now.
Well, you know, Stefano Garzelli is not very far behind Francesco Casagrande in the overall standings. He's 6th at the start of the day this morning, just 22 seconds behind the pink jersey. So Francesco Casagrande really does have to stay in contact with the man who wears 131 there in the yellow jersey at the front of that group of three. Because if they are separated by 20 odd seconds at the finish, then we could see another change in the overall standings.
So Paolo Salvadelli, and he's now trying to do something, but the crowd up here are cheering one of their own over the top, and it looks as though the gap is there now. Rubiera looked as though he was suffering, and Simoni's getting stronger.
Well, that was a great attack there by Simoni. This man is certainly putting the whole of this race under pressure. This is the second group on the road. 131 is Garzelli. He's got the pink jersey of Francesco Casagrande with him. And the third man there for the ride is Hernan Buenahora. But this is a great move. This man, Phil, could be riding himself into the pink jersey today. He said that that's what his ambitions were after finishing third last year. And you can see he's getting much closer to the summit. And he will then have to plunge down towards the finishing line in Selva Gardena.
Well, the Lampre boys are having a pretty good season as we go a little bit further down now, and this is the group which has been whipped a little bit by the strongmen once again, containing all of the other big names in this year's Giro. This is Andrea Noe at the front of that group. Back to the leader.
Well, this is a great move by him, a very aggressive move, a brave move, considering we've already been over two very big mountain passes. The first one was 2,015 meters, then the Marmolada at 2,057 meters. The summit of this one, Phil, the Passo di Sella, is 2,213 meters. And then it is all downhill to the finish.
14 kilometers of it, as Simoni now is going to be first over the top of the climb. And Rubiera should get second and Blanco third because they are still clear, although Blanco is only just clear as he comes up to the summit. He might get third by the seat of his racing shorts because here comes Garzelli. And Buenahora is hanging on to the back wheel of the leader's pink jersey.
Well, that's a pretty good recovery. There's the time difference. 30 seconds is the difference between the leading man on the road. And what a recovery by this man as well, Paolo Salvadelli, Phil. Once we get the time check on him, we'll know whether he has got a chance of pulling himself back into the bike race. He is an unbelievable descender when it comes to riding off these mountains. That is where he earned his nickname. Now, on the front of this group now, it's Francesco Casagrande who comes forward now to keep the pressure on. He wants to try and pull Gilberto Simoni back into the fold.
He's Il Falco chasing them down, but you know, Casagrande is one of the best descenders, and he seems to relish going downhill almost as much as going up it. But Il Falco here now is trying to race himself back into the picture of this year's Giro d'Italia. That's the result we saw over the top. Simoni, Rubiera, Garzelli. In fact, Garzelli getting the third place, Paul, so they must have caught Blanco right on the line.
It must have just caught him on the line there. A very difficult time to get caught, but at least he will be able to recover and stay in with this group on the descent. Gilberto Simoni now, Phil, has to take some serious risks on this descent off this mountain, and somewhere caught in the middle is Jose Luis Rubiera. He just dropped him before the summit of the climb, and in fact you can see Francesco Casagrande is leaving the rest of the group behind.
He really is a marvellous descender, this man, and he's just continuing to race downhill here. He is desperate to reach the two front runners. Under 5 kilometers to go now for these two. Rubiera has found his second wind and Simoni is working with him. This is a superb escape now, but Casagrande is coming down like a train.
Well, he's coming down pretty rapidly. In fact, he's not far behind these riders, and he's around about 35 seconds, 51 seconds as it is back to this group, and that is remarkable. Here now is Il Falco. Il Falco, Phil, is about to make the junction with the group of the pink jersey, Francesco Casagrande.
Well, this is fine piece of racing by all of these riders, trying to pull back the leaderboard of the Giro d'Italia on this descent down into the finish in Selva Gardena. But he's having to do something special here. He is closing in, and he must be racing here, Paul, at between 80 and 85 kilometers an hour.
This man is an unbelievable descender. I would have to say that he is the top descender in the world of professional cycling at the moment. He has taken all kinds of risks to pull himself back up to this group. This is the group of the pink jersey, Francesco Casagrande. Third from the front there is the yellow jersey of Stefano Garzelli, the man who really blew this race apart. Santiago Blanco is in there as well, and now Gilberto Simoni is struggling up that climb there, a very difficult climb just within almost sight of the finish.
Well, as these riders come together here, the last time check we had was 35 seconds to the two leaders. This is one of them, Ribera, sitting on the back wheel of Simoni, and they're coming in very, very fast here. Garzelli is racing really hard. They would like to see Simoni before the finishing line. This is going to be a real fight between the man in yellow and the man in pink. And Savadelli, I don't know whether he's had time to recover from that descent.
Well, Simoni now putting the pressure on. He's trying to ride Riviera off his wheel on this very difficult climb that the organisation threw in just before the finishing line. Hernan Buenahora at the back of the group is in difficulty too. But what a great ride, Phil, by Garzelli on the front here. He's the man who really, I think, today has put some pressure onto the pink jersey. Francesco Casagrande has responded to all of the attacks that have been thrown at him, and now he's starting to look a lot more relieved.
I agree. I think Garzelli has come up here as a major challenger right now, because he's not ridden it from the back, has he? He's either been alongside the pink jersey or setting the pace ever since they've come away from the Marmolada. And Savadelli's done well to force himself back into the position. That little climb then is over, and we're racing down now towards the finish, although the contour map shows a slight little kick up to the finishing line. We'll find out if it's there when we get there, because we just saw Savadelli go then as our camera cut away, but he's gone. There we are. Paolo Savadelli has launched an attack. Now, he's lost an awful lot of time so far in this race, but Casagrande is having none of it and is chasing him down.
Hernan Buenahora at the back here, just happy to stay in contact with this group. We've seen him on the attack in the early part of the stage, and now we're coming up to the 1,000 meters to go, 1 kilometer, the Flamme Rouge, and these riders now are going to fight out the victory. The group behind are closing in fast, Phil, but they're not going to close in fast enough, because the victory on today's big mountain stage will go to one of these two riders. And certainly I would have to say I think it's going to go to Gilberto Simoni, because, you know, the Spanish riders are not normally renowned for their sprinting.
Well, that is true, but Simoni has done a lot of work on the climb here, because his ambition is to open time on Casagrande, and that might compromise him, because he has got to race all the way to the line. He's got no time for cat and mouse tactics for the sprint. He needs time on Casagrande, and I suspect that Ribera knows that.
Well, he was looking strong there. This is the group now behind. It's 5 riders in this group. The man on the front is Savadelli. He's trying to pull himself back into a stage victory, but I think he's left it just a little bit too late for today. Riviera now, the Kelme rider, he's quite happy to come forward and help Simoni to try and keep their advantage over the rest of the group, but they are getting much closer to the finish.
Well, I made the gap there, Paul, 32 seconds under that banner, and so that is enough for these two to play for time if they want to, but really Simoni should be thinking of just keeping on the pressure. He needs to get time over Casagrande. He was third in this race last year, but he must take time when he can. There are not going to be many opportunities to catch Casagrande out, as we've seen in the mountains today. Ribera then looking over the shoulder at Gilberto Simoni as they swing in now towards the finishing line. Look at the time today, 5¼ hours they've been mountain climbing today. As we go back here to the chase group, a little bit of slowing down here as well.
Savadelli taking up the back position there. They're going to start playing around for third place on the road. The first man starting to lead this out is Gilberto Simoni, and right on his wheel is Riviera. Simoni, Phil, opens up the sprint.
Well, Simoni then is going to go first into this left-hand bend. He nearly kicked it too wide there now, and he's had to falter. And in fact, the taller man, who doesn't look the sprinter, Ribera, just has a little bit of a dance on the bike, and he's over. And so he gets the win for Kelme, as the others are now into the home straight here, and Garzelli, who has had a marvellous day out. Casagrande will not give him an inch. He's chasing him down. The two strong men of the mountains are still going to come in the same time. And just on half a minute since the winner crossed the line. It might actually dock Casagrande a second. As the rest of the riders come over the line, Buenahora just getting the better of Savadelli and Santiago Blanco. And the rest are coming in now, and watch the time gaps here, because Pavel Tonkov is third man in line there. Loses another minute and a half. Well, a minute to the man that matters, Casagrande. And it does look, Paul, as though Tonkov is not firing on all 4 cylinders. congratulations then to Kelme. They've got another stage win, and the champion this time is Rubira, who gets his first stage win. He has won a stage in the Giro before, by the way. That was back in 1997. So he's now got 2 victories in the Giro, and it matches his 6th place overall in the Tour of Spain last year.
Well, that was a greatly timed sprint by him, you know, Phil. He accelerated, but the man who made the great descent off the mountain was Paolo Salvadelli. He had to be happy with 6th place on the finish line. As you can see with the confirmation here, the gaps are already starting to appear. 31 seconds Stefano Garzelli was behind in 3rd place, but the Kelme riders have got what they've been looking for, Phil, a stage victory for Jose Luis Rubiera.
Look at the changes overall now. Garzelli only 18 seconds behind Casagrande, 61 seconds to Belli, who is having a magnificent tour, and despite his bad riding, Pavel Tonkov is still there in 4th place overall. So as we carry on with this coverage of the Giro d'Italia, we're now on a 203-kilometre stage, taking the rise from Selva Gardena over to Bormio. So we're now up in northern Italy here, where the mountains abound, and there are plenty of them again today, ups and downs all day, beginning on the Mendola Pass and then moving across to the giant Begavia Pass. And there's the incline of that, taking them up to a massive height of 2,620 metres. And if you count in feet, that's 8,600 feet. And that's where we join the action now. Pepe Gonzalez has gone over the top of the Mendola Pass, and behind him Gutierrez and Mazzolini. But the situation is changing a little bit now.
On the Passo di Gavia, although the average fill is around about 8 to 10%, there are sections of the Gavia at 15% in gradient, and that really is unbelievable. This is the man who was on the attack yesterday, leading the group at the moment. Wears number 91, Gilberto Simoni. Alongside him, Francesco Casagrande. In this group as well, there is Vladimiro Belli, and a little further down in difficulty today is the man who wears the yellow jersey of the Mercatoni Uno squad, Stefano Garzelli. He's trying to pull himself back into the bike race right now, but at the moment he's been put into serious problems.
Well, you get some idea there just how steep this climb is. Francesco Casagrande is there. There's the situation. 2 minutes 20 back to this group of Francesco Casagrande. Here are the troublemakers out front at the moment, led by Pepe Gonzalez, who's trying now to lift the King of the Mountains for a 3rd time in the Giro. But in fact, Casagrande, after his ride yesterday, is currently the leader in the King of the Mountains competition, as he does lead also in the pink jersey competition.
He's now coming to the front of this group. He's the one setting the tempo, and once again Ivan Gotti has recovered and managed to pull himself into this group. He's never really looked very comfortable, Phil, but he always seems to be able to recover and keep himself in contact with the possibility of riding a high place in the overall standing. Somehow I don't think Ivan Gotti's got it in his legs this year so far. The man who now appears to be becoming the serious challenger is Gilberto Simoni, the Lampre rider there on the left hand side. He has got plenty of power, and he is always prepared to attack.
Well, one man who certainly hasn't got it in his legs right now, Paul, is Marco Pantani. He's reported to be 10 minutes behind this little group of riders here.
This is the Kelme squad. The man in the front is doing a great job, Danilo De Luca, although he's not able to follow the accelerations now of Pepe Gonzalez. He was in a leading group of riders, Danilo De Luca, and at one stage he was in fact the pink jersey again on the road.
Yes, he was. He started off the attacks today, a group of 16 of them. He was highest placed in that, which got more than the 5 minutes 49 seconds he was behind overall. And so he became for a while the pink jersey, but that's all over for him now, as we continue to see the action being portrayed here at the front. Victor Pena is the rider from Vitalicio. They are having a great tour, and they're not yet in the Tour de France and are hoping for a wild card.
Well, a lot of teams are still hoping for that wild card. Kelme are also looking to get themselves an invitation into the Tour de France, and that will be announced just after the Giro d'Italia. The man making the serious damage on the front, though, is Pepe Gonzalez. He's a great climber. He's won stages in the Giro before, and he's won stages in the Tour de France. At the moment, he is just trying to get himself over the summit of this called the Gavia. The Gavia was the scene a few years ago of that dramatic victory of Andy Hampsten in the Giro d'Italia, where the race was almost stopped because of snow. Hampsten stopped, like many of the other riders, to put on a racing cape and managed to race through those incredible conditions on a day that saw a man by the name of Eric Brooking get blown out of proportions.
I must say the conditions are considerably better today, and good clear visibility for our pictures here. Stefano Garzelli, Pepe Gonzalez having won the climb of the Mendola Pass, which came soon after the start today, looking to be climbing into the green jersey of leadership of the King of the Mountains if he can keep this up, where what he really wants now is to get over the top of this climb first. And I'm not too sure whether Raphael Cardenas or the other rider just behind here, Pena, can do anything about it anyway.
Well, Pena seems to be suffering quite a bit, and it's quite remarkable because we're now in fact looking at 4 Colombians on the attack in the mountains. This may well be, Phil, the resurgence of Colombian cycling. It looks there as if we're looking down on Paolo Lanfranchi, who is up alongside Danilo De Luca. De Luca really has been a great revelation in this Giro d'Italia, and I'm sure we'll see a lot more of him in the years to come, because at the front of the bike race he was on the attack. He was trying to get himself that pink jersey when all hopes had really disappeared from his shoulders, and he went out on that very long and brave attack. But just now he's showing that he's a little bit limited in the big high mountains.
Now I'll tell you what, Paul, you can feel the temperature dropping here as we go back to the leaders. Now high up the pass here, the Gavia. Danilo De Luca and Lanfranchi are climbing in 4th and 5th positions. They are the next 2 on the road here. The yellow jersey is still looking at a couple of pink jersey rather, still looking at a couple of minutes further down the road and hoping to peg them back. I don't think he'd be too worried about these riders in front, because the men he fears most are pretty close to him. He's going to have to watch out though for Simoni, whose route seems to be coming right back into this race.
Well, Kapa Gonzalez not asking anybody for help at all here. You can see he's been a professional since 1992 and always been a big man when it comes to the huge mountain stages of either Giro d'Italia or the Tour de France. This is the group now of the pink jersey of Francesco Casagrande, and once again, as the slope gets steeper, this man Ivan Gotti is put into difficulty. Up alongside him there, you can see wearing number 62 is Vladimiro Belli. Dario Frigo, who was high in the rankings yesterday, has disappeared from this group. He's a little bit further down, but I'm sure he will ride sensibly and try and keep himself in the bike race, because he has, over the last couple of days, become a real revelation in this Giro.
There's still a little way to go to the top of the pass here, and nobody able or willing to work with Kapa Gonzalez, this fabulous little climber from Colombia, as he continues to go up the mountain here. The snow still melting up here. That's when it's not freezing, because temperatures don't stay above freezing too long when there's this much snow around. But at least we can see as we get up towards the summit of the climb now. Just look at how deep the snow drifts are on the left of this mountain here.
Unbelievable. It really is cold. The advantage they have is 2 minutes over the pink jersey group of Francesco Casagrande. Casagrande now accelerating. He wants to try and get as much time as possible between himself and Garzelli and Tonkov and the rest. Gotti now not able to follow, but as we approach the summit of the climb, Kapa Gonzalez is the man going over in first place.
And that's enough to give him the lead in the King of the Mountains competition. He goes over there ahead of Raphael Felix Cardenas, and Victor Pena is in 3rd. Now, who's going to make it? This is the replay of the leaders going over. Who's going to make it from Luca, who's just behind, and also Paolo Lanfranchi?
You see these guys taking serious precautions now to make sure they don't get too cold, because on a descent like this, the chill factor is absolutely unbelievable. As they get towards the summit of the climb, Danilo De Luca gets himself nice and covered up. They're going to go over the top there in 4th place, and 5th place for Paolo Lanfranchi. He too is getting himself caped up for the descent. On the descents, Phil, when they're approaching speeds of 60 miles an hour, it gets awfully cold because of the chill factor, and it is well below freezing up at the top of this mountain today.
It is very, very cold, and in case you're wondering what gears they used on that climb today, they chose between a 23 and up to a 25 rear sprocket. That's how steep that climb was, using the usual 39 inside chainring.
Well, this is the descent now. You can see just how lucky we are to be racing over the Gavia at the moment, because until around about 3 weeks ago, this road was completely blocked. The third group on the road, I should say, is Francesco Casagrande. There with him is Buena Hora, and also with him as well is the man who is the biggest challenger, I think, to him so far, Phil, Gilberto Simoni. And there's a quick recovery there coming from Ivan Gotti and Vladimiro Belli just getting onto the back of the group.
Well, Vladimiro Belli's having a superb ride as he comes over the top. This is Garzelli and Frigo, and they're over the top as well. They're all within touch of each other on the way down. 2 minutes 14 the gap there, over to again Gonzalez, remember, just a couple of seconds behind the pink jersey. As we move back up to the front with the leader now, he's pulled on that racing cape to keep out the chill, and now making his way down. He'll soon be in the warmer part of the course.
Well, 50 miles an hour for the descent at the moment for Kapa Gonzalez, and you can see he's starting to pick up the pace as much as possible. But you know that group behind Phil has got some very serious challenges in it, and we still are an awful long way to go to the finish. I make it around about 32 kilometers to the finish line from the summit of the Gavia, and with the big group behind they may well be able to pick up Kapa Gonzalez, who is not reputed as a great descender. The problem that he has is he's not very heavy at all. He weighs in at around about 52 kilograms.
Well, we saw poor old Kepi fall off once in this race. He's fallen off, in fact, a number of times off our camera as well. But let's not wish him ill on the way down here, because this is not an easy descent at all. And if you try to catch up with the leader, then you're going to have to take one or two risks. And as you can see, it's damping a little bit out there, so the roads are reasonably wet.
Stefano Gazzelli is also going to take some risks on the descent to try and pull himself back up to the pink jersey group of Francesco Casagrande. And now we can see that the regrouping is happening as we speak.
Yeah, all back together. Buenahora was the rider who just tagged on the back there with Gotti as this little group of 4 now. And then there's 3, 6, 7. So we're going to have 11 or 12 riders getting themselves together there. Then they can concentrate on the few leaders. General regrouping, I think, because that's De Luca on the left of our picture. Here's Lanfranchi, and this is going to be all against the one lone leader now.
In fact, I think Kapa Gonzalez has been brought into the fold as well here, and it looks as if it's all coming back together as we come into the town and find that we've got 10 kilometers to go to the finish. So the whole of the group have managed to pull themselves back together, but one man missing from this group at the moment is Stefano Gazzelli.
Well, he'll be feeling pretty happy with his day out now, Francesco Casagrande, because there is Gilberto Simoni on his right. He's got everybody back in. It looks as though Tonkov is trying to get back on terms here, but he is losing time at the moment, Paul, and it's not been a good day for him at all.
Been a bad day once again for Tonkov. He's got there with him Andrea Noe, and also Paolo Lanfranchi has dropped off the back of this group. And in fact, Stefano Gazzelli hasn't given up yet. He's still trying to get himself up to the pink jersey group of Francesco Casagrande.
Well, I find that amazing if, in fact, Lanfranchi has dropped off the back here. Tonkov, OK, he's got Noah with him, but Noah isn't doing any work. He's sitting behind him.
Well, it's a bad day for the Mapei squad today. They've completely blown to pieces on the big slopes of the Gavia as we rejoin this group. Danilo De Luca must certainly be a big favourite to try and get the stage victory here, Phil, because he is a very fast finisher. But I would think after a tough day in the saddle like this, he may well not quite have what it takes to take out the stage victory. There is Stefano Gazzelli coming down there, so that is a great recovery by him. And maybe by the bottom of this descent, he will make the junction.
Well, I have to tell you this, that the weather is not very nice on this side of the mountain pass at all. As we get lower, the rain gets heavier and the roads get that little bit more slippery. And Francesco Casagrande again showing everybody else the way down the mountains. He is just not afraid of dropping down these descents at all. But it's a sharp piece of wheel following there by Simoni into the last kilometre. So Casagrande in with a chance here now of taking the stage win at the end of this tough day in the mountains. But Simoni looks to have himself in the best position.
Well, he's trying to get him to come forward, move forward, come on, we can keep working together towards the finish line. Simoni's thinking more about the stage victory at the moment. He got robbed the other day and now he wants to try and get revenge. Francesco Casagrande has got on first position here, Phil. Come on, work with me, but you know, behind they're all starting to recover. There's a big response coming here now. Vladimiro Belli moves up alongside.
Well, I can't believe also, Paul, that Eddie Mazzolini is the Polte boy who's ridden such a great race. There he is there. He's been out in these groups all day today and he's still survived. He's in the kill here now because as they start to go to the finish, they force the race leader to take the lead. And in fact, Gilberto Simoni has no intention of going by him until he gets a good view of the finishing banner. And goodness knows what Vladimiro Belli wants to do. It looks a bit boxed in, actually. But they're going to have to make now. Eddie Mazzolini is going to have a go. He swung right across to the other side of the road as the pack behind were trying to get on terms. And Gilberto Simoni, having none of it, is chasing after him. And he's got time on his side here. As he links up with him, he goes straight past him. And this is going to be a win for Simoni. Gilberto Simoni comes clear, gets Lampre the win. Second is Mazzolini. Great ride for him. Casagrande is third and Vladimiro Belli fourth, and I think that was Belli's teammate Dario Frigo has gone over there in fifth place, and the rest are coming in now, all with time gaps. What a great day out this has been for Francesco Casagrande, even if he has conceded the win to Simoni.
Well, this is another look at that. What a greatly timed sprint that was by Simone. He forced Casagrande to do all of the tempo over the last couple of kilometers there. And in fact, a great response by Eddie Mazzolini, as you said, in many of the breakaways on the day. And Casagrande had to be happy with third. Stefano Gazzelli made a great recovery, though, Phil, to keep himself in touch in 7th place.
Well, absolutely delighted. I'm not surprised. Simone still very much in the frame to win the Giro d'Italia, and he gets a stage win as well now, which is always a pleasing thing to do. Overall, the situation is still extremely tight at the top of the Giro d'Italia this year. Casagrande still the leader, only 33 seconds in front of Gazzelli, 57 now in front of Simone, who comes into third, and Belli is still there as well. And today's stage, the riders now running away from the mountains for a reasonably flat race. They start just on the edge of the hills, then they run down to Brescia, where they'll finish not too far above sea level, just over 140 metres. And it should be a reasonable day, 180 kilometres the ride, and now the GC may not change, and as it looks, Paul, the sprinters are going to have their day here.
Well, this has been a very tough circuit around here in Brescia, 3 laps, and each time there's been a very tough climb. The attack now coming from the Lampre squad, and this is Gabriele Misaglia trying to get off the front and surprise all of the sprinters. The response coming from behind from one of the riders from Faso Bortolo, but this has been an unbelievable stage today. The last 40 kilometres have been ripped off at a roaring pace.
And we're into the last kilometre now, and it is going to be a bunch sprint. No Cipollini, of course, anymore, as Massalia tries to hold them off here. He's a very useful rider indeed, but the speed of the bunch coming across the promenade there is going to bring it all back together again here, I think. But there's no organisation in this bunch sprint now, as they all try to see their chance at victory, as they're making the run at it now. And we've got in there the Faso Bortolo rider, I think is Alessandro Petacci. He's being challenged here by the Sella Italia rider, and the Seiko riders are coming in as well. This is going to be a very strange sprint indeed here, because the sprinters have no lead-out men whatsoever.
Well, you know, that's because of the fact that Mario Cipollini's not here. There's a big switch across the road there, everybody. There's a crash, so half a dozen riders have gone down there, but that's not affected the front of the bike race. It's the Seiko riders on the front taking up the pace, but I'm sure 1 or 2 riders went down there. We saw the bikes flying.
Well, I think you're right, but the rider who's hit the front is Angel Vizioso, the Kelme rider, and he's come well clear, and he's caught them napping. This youngster on the Kelme team, who is a great sprinter. He's only a young boy, and he's got a victory here.
Well, this is the point of where the crash was. The crash happened there was Fabrizio Guidi just fighting to keep himself upright, switching right across the road there. You can see the sprint opening up, a few hands coming off. Biagio Conti lifting his hands off the bars there. There is the moment. You can see Vizioso coming through there. He's boxed in against the barriers, but then he sees the gap opening, switches across there, opens the gap, pushes Silvio Martinello out of the way, and in the lunge for the line, he's the man who's got the fastest sprint, and a great win for Kelme. Very rare to see them winning a bunch sprint.
Well, I can tell you what, Paul, that move has again not gone down well with the judges. Watch it again. There is the clack as he hits Silvio Martinello. Didn't look intentional to me, but he's been relegated to the back of the field. That is the confirmation, but the judges have just told us he is not there. So Biagio Conti has got the stage victory ahead of Alessandro Petacci. Well, I think they were unjustly treated there as we move on to the next stage of 102 kilometres. And so does the race here, because they asked all of the Kelme riders to come to the front, and they have delayed the start in sympathy with the disqualification yesterday of the rider Angel Vizioso, because they felt he was very badly treated.
Well, I have to say, Phil, you know, I really don't understand the judges very much these days. You know, sprinting is a dangerous part of the sport, and the guy's telling him to get his hands in the air in celebration of the victory that most of the bike riders in the race feel that he should have had.
When professional cyclists don't agree with them, then the judges should look at what they're actually doing, I think. Anyway, let's move on, Paul. This is the final kilometre of the stage. It was again a very routine stage finish here, as the riders now lining up for the finishing sprint on this, the 16th stage of the Giro d'Italia. And again, the bunch is coming down to the finish all together.
Well, a big lead out here organised by Seiko. They probably feel Biagio Conti's got a chance of getting himself high up in the rankings there. Look out there, the blue jerseys, Fabrizio Guidi, but you know, a lot of riders slowing off now, moving forward at the moment. Silvio Martinello is the man right very close to the front there for the Polti squad, but they're all queuing up right behind him.
And there's no sign of Vizioso either, keeping out of the way here now as they try to sort it out amongst themselves. Watch out for that blue jersey. He's right on the shoulder. He has led the Inter-Giro competition virtually since day one, and he's made a lovely run on the left here, has Fabrizio Guidi, and this is going to be a pleasing victory for him. Or is it? Yes, it is, just on the line. That was Stephen de Jong who got second. He was placed on stage one, if you remember. Biagio Conti, who was given the win yesterday, gets third this time around. Now this young gentleman at the back here, I think it's Mario Sciria, he's on the telephone. But there is the winner of the day.
But just look there, Phil, you can see Stefan de Jong as he lunged his bicycle, he pulled his foot out but still managed to hold on for second place. I don't think it affected the result of the race. But still at the top of the leaderboard, Francesco Casagrande leading the bike race by 33 seconds from Stefano Garzelli and 57 seconds from Gilberto Simoni. No change yet in the overall standings.
And on this stage there shouldn't be any change either. 236 kilometers taking the rider away from Meda to Genoa. And this a beautiful city, of course, and the riders running really fairly low level, just one small third category hill by the finish. And I can tell you a breakaway going with 115 kilometers to go. Alvaro Gonzalez de Galdiano on his own virtually the whole day. 37th overall at the start, 38 minutes behind, and the bunch was still 5 minutes behind when he came home alone. They saw him a couple of times before he finally crossed the finishing line, and the main field themselves running in, and he didn't have to worry about them at all. Far too far ahead, Paul.
Absolutely, the big sprint going to Jans Verada as they came across the line, and still Dmitry Konichev getting himself some points, but the day certainly belonged to Alvaro Gonzalez de Galdiano. A great breakaway move by him, going clear with 115 kilometers to go and surviving with just 24 seconds on the line.
And that after he had a lead at one point of 7 minutes 10 seconds. It was a dramatic chase down indeed. On now to the next stage of the Giro. This is stage 18, and the riders now are on a very different type of terrain indeed.
Well, this is going to be a big sort out once again on the attack. Santiago Blanco trying to blow the race apart, and Hernan Buenajora is now the man trying to get himself across. This is the very select group though of the pink jersey, 181 Francesco Casagrande. The Pedesto rider on the front there is Darius Baranovsky, setting the tempo on the front, trying to set something up maybe for his teammate Leonardo Pipoli. Pipoli feels today that with this very difficult mountain top finish at Prato Nevoso, he has got the chance of getting himself the win.
Well, so far today it's been the Kelme riders who've been doing all the dictating of the pace, and certainly now it looks as though we've got here Noe trying to get in on the act as well, and also the on high boys of Vicoloso. They are riding so well in this race. There is Simoni.
There is Leonardo Pipoli right on the back there. This is the man that they're trying to set it up for, the Banesto team on the front. You know, they've had a victory for the Kelme squad. The Vitalicio Seguros team has had a victory as well, and there's an awful lot of fight between the Spanish teams for supremacy. And today I'm certain that these men on the front are trying to set it out for Leonardo Pipoli. He is a very good climber, one of the smallest bike riders in the Giro d'Italia, and that's why we've got Banesto on the front setting this unbelievable pace.
Darius Baranovsky, a very good rider indeed, but with the news that the abandon of one of the riders of Panaria now, we are left with only one rider in that team, Vladimir Duma. All 8 other riders have given up in the race now.
Well, on the front, Andrea Noah there setting the tempo and moving backwards pretty rapidly. That looked like Hernan Buenajora. He was on the attack a few moments ago, and now he's gone straight back through the field. Pavel Tonkov has come forward. He's trying to put pressure onto the pink jersey. 5 kilometers to go. This is the man at the front of the bike race, Santiago Blanco, a great bike rider. An awful lot of controversy surrounding his transfer from the Banesto squad to the Vitalicio squad a couple of years ago, but now he is still to confirm that he is one of Spanish great riders.
Yes, that became the subject of a bitter court battle, but he is now with this other Spanish team. Jose Enrico Gutierrez has been the big mountain climber today, winning the climb of the Melogno and the climb of the Giavetti. But now they're looking out to see who is going to get up towards the finish and win the climb at the top.
Well, Paolo Lanfranchi accelerating to try and stay in contact with this group, the group of all of the main leaders. It looks as if Buenajora has got himself back into the group. There was Belli, but this is the man leading the bike race at the moment. And you know, not really filled by very much at all. The last time check was around about 25 seconds. Now it's Simoni who attacks. He's trying to get away. Once again, this man is such an aggressive bike rider on the climbs. He feels he has the makings of the winner of the Giro d'Italia this year, but immediately the response comes from Belli. Right on his wheel is Casagrande, and Stefano Garzelli is up there in fourth.
Well, they've got to follow each other now with just over a minute covering all three, or just under a minute covering the top three overall in the race. Every move could be a winning move for the Giro d'Italia. This rider here is enacting another battle a bit lower down the overall. He lies in 12th position. These are now the riders trying to chase down with Casagrande, number 181, the man they're all looking to now. But Garzelli and the first three in the Tour here, lying second, third and fourth in the line as we look at them now. They are following each other everywhere.
Well, Belli was the man putting the acceleration on the front there. Where's 62 for Faso Bortolo? And now moving up the outside, Simoni. Once again, Phil, he wants to attack. He wants to try and get himself closer to the overall lead. He's not very far down in the standings, inside 1 minute, and this is an attack that Francesco Casagrande has to respond to.
Well, this is an amazing attack, and what a cheeky attack. He lost a little bit of impetus there as he run in amongst the motorbikes, but here comes the response now as Stefano Garzelli. What surprises me is the pink jersey doesn't respond.
Well, you know what? I don't think he's having a good day. You know, he is in serious difficulty. He's not been able to respond to that attack by Garzelli, and we may be seeing the change in the overall leadership of this bike race. Stefano Garzelli and Simoni, second and third in the standings, are off the front.
Well, if they get out of sight, they can fight out the next wearer of the pink jersey here, because that's Frigo who's joined up.
In fact, that was Vladimiro Belli who's got across there. He was fourth in the standings. So second, third and fourth overall have now attacked Francesco Casagrande. Simoni is the first one round the corner. Garzelli is in second place. Belli is in third place. And Francesco Casagrande now, Phil, for the first time, is not looking like a strong leader.
Absolutely, and in fact the spectators here really shouldn't be doing that, because the riders can be disqualified if they're pushed by the spectators, and we wouldn't want that to happen to Gilberto Simoni at this crucial stage now of the Giro d'Italia. This is the leader, Santiago Blanco, but I think they're coming up on him.
Well, Santiago Blanco does not look comfortable now. He keeps getting out of the saddle, trying to survive, trying to keep the pressure on. But one other man has got across to that group now. That is Leonardo Pippoli. He is certainly looking for the victory right now, and this man is starting to lose ground. The pink jersey of Francesco Casagrande is falling away from the lead at the moment. Simoni has now caught the first man on the road. There is Santiago Blanco. We are now looking at a leading group of 5 riders and 5 very good climbers.
And now can Santiago Blanco do it? Look at the bobbing and weaving there of Stefano Garzelli. Leonardo Pippoli sitting here at the back and not worried about doing anything. Vladimiro Belli is there. Sorry about a little bit of problem with the picture here as we look back here now to Bueno Hora. The pink jersey knows he's got it all to do, Paul, but look, he is bringing this race back, and yet he's had to just hold his rhythm. They must have slowed down.
They must have slowed down. They're thinking about the stage victory right now. Stefano Garzelli is the man on the front. We are inside 2 kilometers to go to the finish. Blanco, Garzelli, Simoni, Pippoli, and he's done it. He's on the back.
Well, they gave it back to Casagrande there. They didn't help the Garzelli, the only one left to work at the front. Maybe they couldn't do it anymore. Maybe they were also on their limit, because there is Simoni now as they come up towards the finish here. And Garzelli looks now as though he's made his move, but certainly making his move is Gilberto Simoni. But this time, I think Casagrande was paying attention.
Well, he was paying attention. He's moving forward now. He knows he has to stay in contact with these guys, and if he wants to keep himself in the pink jersey. You know, Garzelli is only 35 seconds, 33 seconds behind in the overall standings, and he now knows that there's a possibility of getting himself a bonus at the finish. Francesco Casagrande must be very attentive now, Phil, but watch out. There's also the possibility of a late attack coming from Leonardo Pippoli, because the Benesto team have tried to set it up for him. Pavel Tonkov attacks.
Well, Tonkov tries it now. It's amazing, but they're trying every move here to win the stage. In Tonkov's case, I don't think he's really a contender anymore now for final overall in this race. More than 2 minutes behind, but Garzelli again jumps on his wheel and locks in, and we're slowly breaking that leading group up here. But Casagrande is following wheels and not attacking. That's a good indicator. He is not feeling good at all.
Well, you know, this was the man who looked like he was untouchable in the mountains, but as we get to the latter part of this Giro d'Italia. Now we're starting to see chinks in his armour. He's had to respond to an awful lot of attacks. I thought he was going to get blown away there, and he really must have dug deep, Phil, to pull himself back into this group. Pavel Tonkov now is on the front. Stefano Gardzeni now looks like the next man to be put into difficulty. And watch out, because I'm fairly certain soon we will get an attack coming from Leonardo Pipoli, the rider in the white jersey from Veneto, and there he goes.
He must have seen the kite at the same time as you, Paul, because he's gone now. Pipoli looks over, but you see, they're even chasing him down, and he's no threat overall either. He's in 13th place right now, but they're on him straight away. Garzelli, very impressive. Watches everything, and now the move goes on. That's Belli that's gone on the far side of the road. Now he's having a go.
Well, everybody wants to win this stage. This is a mountain top finish here, and you know, everyone together at this stage of the game is really quite remarkable. Francesco Casagrande, I think, Phil, now has recovered, because every time this group splits, he's always on the back end of it, staying at the front end of the race. Pavel Tonkov is moving further back down that group. He's obviously not in a superb day as we have seen him in the past. Vladimiro Belli now is the man on the front. Pipoli in second place, in an ideal position to set up the sprint.
Well, they've all tried, haven't they, one after the other, and they've all failed right now. At 700 meters to go to the finish, it is still anybody's race, and Pipoli goes again. It might well be Garzelli who takes this one out, because of the way he's riding. He's marking everything.
Well, there's Simone up into fourth place there. This is the man who's already got a stage victory and a second place on these stages so far of the Giro d'Italia. Leonardo Pipoli not in a good position now, because he's going to be forced to lead out. He's attacked a couple of times, and he's now going to be the man, Phil, who has to open up this sprint as we go around one of the final bends.
We are almost on the line now. Leonardo Pipoli is going to have to lead them towards it now. The others are waiting. All of the three riders behind have won stages. Well, all except Garzelli, that is, but he might put that to rights. He's in a brilliant place to make the move now. No, he's boxed out of it as we come up towards the end now. He's got round on the other side, and Garzelli has got the legs. Look at this sprint from Garzelli. He is going to put his mark on this race, although it's an awful long way to the line. He's hit the front rather early, but I think he's got the speed. Look at the face of Gilberto Simone, and Casagrande just struggling to stay on terms, and they're not going to win the stage. So he gets the stage there, and he might even get a small time gap as well.
Well, there will be a time gap, I'm sure, between one or two of those riders. Pavel Tonkov also tailing off the back. This is Andrea Noe just coming in now with Santiago Blanco, the man who was a serious animator. But what a great sprint here by this man, Garzelli, Phil. He opened up the gas, and at the end of a stage like that, to explode like that really is quite remarkable. But check out the face there on the right of Francesco Casagrande. Today he was put into serious difficulty.
So the man in the all-yellow strip, but this isn't the Tour de France, this is the Giro d'Italia. Stefano Garzelli, who's second overall in the race, is going to close in a little bit now. In fact, they gave Simone and Casagrande the same time, and the others went at 2 seconds, with Buenahola at 8. So the pink jersey managed to save all of his time. Garzelli just keeps him a little time bonus to 25 seconds now, while Gilberto Simone is third. And on we go now as we stay in the mountains for a pretty rough day out in the Alps. And the high point of the Tour, the Col dell'Agnello, which is the Cimo Coppi, which means the high point of the Tour at 2,748 meters, over 9,000 feet. And now we're going to join the action on the road. The Col d'Izoard in France follows, and we're looking here at some images of one of the greatest cyclists the world has ever known, Fausto Coppi, the Campion de Campissimo. And winning the special prize here, absolutely fitting, number 151, Paul Kapa Gonzalez, King of the Mountains.
What a great bike rider, what an aggressive man on the mountain stages. This now is Gilberto Simone coming up for second place, and this is the group of Francesco Casagrande. Casagrande once again being put into difficulty, not able to respond to that attack by Gilberto Simone, who goes over there with Paolo Lanfranchi.
A very, very good move indeed. Kapa Gonzalez going over the top with a minute 28 over Lanfranchi and Simone. Then Roberto Conti and Casagrande in a group at 1 minute 49. Here they come as they will go under the banner. And again, the race has been fragmented by a massive climb, but we're now on into France, and the Col d'Izoard will take us down to the finish in Briançon. And it's 176 kilometers in total day from Saluzzo. But the Col d'Izoard at this time of the year can often be quite a dangerous place, because the snows are barely clear in the month of May. And we're also climbing up, Paul, at Briançon into the old town too.
Absolutely, a very difficult finish there. Massimo Codel, 2,748 meters for the Col dell'Angelo, but now on the slopes of the Col d'Izoard, that levels out at 2,361 meters at the top. And you know, this is the big attack. The attacks are coming here at the front of the bike race, and once again Pavel Tonkov is put into difficulty. Marco Pantani, though, Phil, is certainly in the action.
Well, it's the first time we've seen him, but maybe he's happy to be going on to French roads, because he stayed in this group. He had a little bit of a yo-yo, but he's now very much here, and they must be wondering where he came from, because we haven't seen him for 2.5 weeks. But now here in the Alps, he seems to be riding very, very well. A number of times he's attacked Paul, and he's gone back and waited for Garzelli.
Well, I think he's trying to set something up for Garzelli today, but he keeps getting caught out by this man. Gilberto Simoni is on a flyer today. He's trying to blow the race to pieces. He's trying to get rid of the man in the pink jersey. The man in the pink jersey there, Francesco Casagrande, is in all kinds of difficulties here, but Marco Pantani is having his best day. He is riding as he did do in the past. He is riding as he has on many occasions throughout his career as a superb mountain climber. He is trying to put the pressure on the pink jersey, and he's trying to drag Garzelli away to the lead.
Well, he said a while back now in the race he would not win the Giro d'Italia, but he would have an influence on the person who did. And now it is 2-1 against Casagrande here, and the man setting the pace is the climber himself, the pirate Marco Pantani. And Garzelli will be rather pleased to see him around, I think, because they are pretty good friends.
He certainly will. There you can see the climber Kapa Gonzalez. This is further down the slopes. Pavel Tonkov again, Phil, on the big mountains, not able to be competitive, not able to stay in contact with the group. But Gilberto Simoni for the moment is the man having the biggest advantage. He is the man that every time there's an acceleration from Pantani, he's able to follow it, and he is able to put Francesco Casagrande into difficulty. The man who has set the race alight, though, today in the green jersey as King of the Mountains is Kapa Gonzalez, and still he won't give up.
No, but he's falling back now. He has won the big one of this tour, the Cima Coppi on the Col dell'Agnello, which is the ore category, the higher and higher of the races. Now there's the composition of the group: Garzelli, Pantani, Casagrande, Simoni and Kapa Gonzalez himself. And now yet another acceleration here by the pirate. They've no reason to chase him because he's too far behind, but it looks as though they're prepared to, especially Simoni.
Well, Simoni can see the chance of a leapfrog to victory here. He's not very far behind in the overall standings. You know, at the start of the day, he was third place and he was only 53 seconds behind. He doesn't need very much to get the lead away from Francesco Casagrande, but the man at the front, Marco Pantani, is trying to rip this pace to pieces, and he wants to try and do it for his own teammate. Every time he accelerates and he sees that Garzelli can't follow, he sits up and waits for him.
It's absolutely amazing because he has this great style. He just seems to ride on the bottom of the handlebars there and just kick out of the pedals and rip them apart. I've never seen him look this good for over a year now, and in fact he's put Kapa Gonzalez in trouble because of his escape earlier on the big climb, and Kapa looks as though he's just settling into a lonely climb up the Izoard now.
Well, Kapa Gonzalez has done enough to win the King of the Mountains competition. That's what his aim was on this stage today, to get as many points as possible. This now is Gilberto Simoni, wears 91. He again is trying to get rid of the man in pink, Francesco Casagrande, but again, Phil, Pantani is sitting up and waiting for his teammate.
Well, he's now going to have to work something out here because Simoni has sensed what the game is and decided to go alone, and he knows he seems to have worked out that Pantani will go back and look for Garzelli. That's exactly what is happening, look. Well, this is a very unselfish act by Marco Pantani. He'll be making himself a lot of friends again around the world. He drops back to what appears to be his double back there with his shaven head.
Unbelievable. He's dropped back for his teammate and he's going to pace him back up there. That's a little bit dangerous, that maneuver there. You know, some of these people get in so close to the right riders on a mountain climb like this, and they're going to have to try and keep them back if possible. The slopes of the Izoard are almost over and Gilberto Simoni has the advantage, but he's not going to hold back Marco Pantani right now, Phil, because Marco Pantani is pulling himself back up to the attack there from the Lampre rider, and they are not yet managing to get rid of Francesco Casagrande, who today has been on the defensive on every slope.
He hasn't responded, has he, other than following the wheels? He certainly isn't taking part in launching attacks to cool them all down. He's not riding as well as he was, that's for sure, Francesco Casagrande. By day 9 of this race we thought he was going to build huge margins over the field, but there's been a number of riders come out and clipped his wings, not least Garzelli and Simoni.
Well, further down the slopes there we got a quick glimpse of Pavel Tonkov, and he was joined there by Leonardo Pippoli, and somewhere in the middle is his own teammate Paolo Lanfranchi. This is the front of the bike race, though. This is the man, Marco Pantani, who was kicked out of the Giro d'Italia almost 12 months ago to the day because of a high measurement of hematocrit. And since then, he's had all kinds of psychological and physical problems, Phil, trying to keep himself in the sport of cycling. And only 48 hours to go before the Giro d'Italia did he admit that he was going to start.
Well, I think everybody's pleased he did, but his affair with the doping affair is not over yet, because he will come to court later this year, and then we'll find out perhaps the truth surrounding the whole situation. This is Pavel Tonkov. He's a bit further back down the mountain today as we all start the plunge now down towards Briançon. But the climbing isn't finished, because we climb up through the old town, come out of the old town and onto the finishing line, which itself is slightly uphill.
Well, Pantani must be very frustrated here. You can see the very open part here towards the summit of the Col d'Izoard. It is such a hot and baking place in the summer months, but for the moment it is not that hot at all, because it's only just in the last couple of days that the clouds have opened up to allow these riders to be able to see this race. And now Pantani is on the front on one of the most famous climbs in all of cycling history, the Col d'Izoard. Garzelli and Pantani are working together as a team, trying to get rid of Francesco Casagrande. But for me, Phil, the man who has the best legs of the whole day is Gilberto Simoni.
He has had a great last few days in the Tour, and the same can't be said for Pavel Tonkov, who's now finding this race very, very difficult. But look, again, Simoni is trying to hurt the riders. Pantani has the legs, but he will only go as fast as Garzelli can follow. But once more, the gap is bridged.
What a great climber, what a great teammate as well. Today he is working unselfishly for Stefano Garzelli. He's trying to really thrash it out with Francesco Casagrande. And Casagrande himself is doing a pretty good job, because he's responded to all of these attacks. He's managing to keep himself in the bike race at the moment. And Simoni is not going to give up. As long as there's a slope in this year's Giro d'Italia, he is going to attack on it.
Well, Simoni in third place, the place he finished last year, would like first now. But he's still got to get rid of these very limpet-like riders who are staying right behind him. There's Pantani. He's hurting himself right now to hold on to Simoni, who's got a good tempo going here. Garzelli and Casagrande can't see what they look like. He doesn't know how hard they're suffering here. He has just kept himself by following the wheels. There's so few seconds between Garzelli and Casagrande, you know. It's going to be one terrific time trial coming up tomorrow.
It certainly is. It's going to be very difficult. Simoni, though, wants to try and get a few more seconds back. This is the face of the pirate. His teammate looks like almost a double as they come towards the summit here of the Col d'Izoard. Pantani again getting out of the saddle. The fluidity, Phil, has certainly come back to his pedaling action, and I think in a few weeks' time, when we go to the start of the Tour de France, a lot of people will be worried now about the return of Marco Pantani. Francesco Casagrande, for the moment, is on a seriously defensive role. He's trying to stay in contact with this group, and he will be attacked all the way to the summit. He doesn't have much longer to hold on, but he must try and keep in contact with this group, because as long as he can stay with Garzelli and Simoni, he's still got the chance of taking this pink jersey down into Milano.
Well, I wonder if he is thinking of the time trial tomorrow, which is a brute, leaving Briançon over Montgenèvre and up to Sestriere, and whether he's just sitting there and trying to conserve as much energy as possible for the big showdown, because it does appear now, if this race continues like this to Briançon, that the time trial will decide the winner of the Tour.
Absolutely. This is Pavel Tonkov in contact there with his teammate Paolo Lanfranchi. They are trying to keep themselves high in the overall standings. Pavel Tonkov has been put into difficulty on every one of the big mountain passes of this year's Giro d'Italia, and it's only really thanks to his teammates Andrea and Paolo Lanfranchi that he's managed to stay up. 150 meters to go to the summit of this climb, the Col d'Izoard, and finally Garzelli moves forward, but I think it's really more of a show than anything else, because Simoni's the one opening up the acceleration.
Well, we're right up in the dizzy heights of France with the Tour of Italy, 75 metres from the top, and it looks as though Garzelli, Marco Pantani are in a little bit of trouble. And how about this for a little show of domination? Casagrande eases forward and gets the points on top of the Col d'Izoard. Garzelli follows Simoni, and then the little pirate comes up towards the top, over the top in fact. He's just hooked up again at the back.
Fuga Pantani, breakaway Pantani, that's what the people want. And amazingly, despite that rumour which still surrounds, and we still don't know the outcome of that, we won't until later on in the year, the crowds, Phil, have certainly turned out for Marco Pantani, because he has remained very popular with the spectators. This is the next two riders on the road, Lanfranchi and Pavel Tonkov, trying to pull themselves back to this leading group of four riders at the moment.
Well, Tonkov himself, despite the fact he appears to be riding below his best, is hanging around very high up the overall classification, and you've got to take your hats off to him because he hasn't enjoyed this Giro d'Italia at all. He has always been put on the defensive.
In fact, I think Tonkov is about to make the contact here as Marco Pantani tries to get himself off the front of the group. But there is Tonkov and Lanfranchi making the contact. Like 6 riders at the head of the bike race just now, and Marco Pantani trying to get off the front on his own.
Well, the winner must come from these 6 now. It's all downhill to Briançon. Then we nip up through the old town where the streets are extremely narrow. I'm surprised they're taking the race right through the narrow streets. But we can't finish in the old town because the roads simply aren't wide enough, as you'll see shortly. So we go out the other side onto a wide finishing straight. But now there's a counter-attack again. It looks like Tonkov has gone now.
Well, it's actually Paolo Lanfranchi. I think he's moving up the outside with his teammate Tonkov, and he went straight over the top. Tonkov is now moving across the front of that group and slowing them down, so that gives advantage to Paolo Lanfranchi. But what a great attack there by Marco Pantani. The frustration must be really in the camp of Mercatone Uno now, because they're really caught not knowing exactly what to do. They wanted to try and win the stage, but they're also today trying to win the Giro d'Italia.
Well, I think you're right, and I think that will frustrate Pantani, because I think he could have gone there but felt he shouldn't. You're right, it is Paolo Lanfranchi who's gone, this little man who's now making a big effort, having only just joined. And look at this, a split in the field, and this could be more trouble now. Simone's been caught at the back.
In fact, there's a recovery there as well.
Yeah.
Buenahora has come from behind. We never heard any mention at all of him, and he has now pulled himself back into the leading group. But this is not good for Marco Pantani to attack just now, because in fact Garzelli was put into difficulty. Garzelli has recovered well with Simone, and he's pulled himself back up to Tonkov and Marco Pantani. But poor old Marco, he's got unbelievable legs today, and he is going to have to just work for his own team.
There is Buenahora. He's done well to come back into the action as we now go past the town sign announcing Briançon. We are now heading towards the finish, and Paolo Lanfranchi, who is not a big winner by any manner of means, looks as though he might be winning this one. A former winner of the Tour of Langkawi. That was the first race he ever won.
And what a bike race it was, and it was on the slopes of the Genting Highlands just outside of Kuala Lumpur that he took the overall lead there, and a great domination by the Mape squad in that event. Today he's trying to get himself into this town first. This is Briançon, the gateway to the Alps, the gateway to the great climbs like the Galibier. This is the chasing group now, the group with Pavel Tonkov and all of the leaders of the Giro d'Italia, including Francesco Casagrande. Paolo Lanfranchi now, Phil, is on this interminable climb right through the very centre of Briançon.
And look at little Marco Pantani is free here, Paul. I think he decided to go it alone and try and catch him. Because he is doing quite a descent here, kicking out of the corners and driving on. Again, Simone is after him, and so too is Garzelli. I don't see Casagrande.
Well, Marco Pantani wasn't going to give up, but they've actually given too much advantage to the man at the front, Paolo Lanfranchi. But maybe they haven't, because Paolo Lanfranchi doesn't look too comfortable now. This is a very difficult finish. The response behind now coming from Pavel Tonkov. He's the man nailing back the Pirate. He's on the tail of the Pirate now. He won't go past him this time because he wants to try and make sure that the victory goes to the Mape camp.
Well, they've regrouped, except this rider here who is hurting himself but racing towards what would be a great victory for him. His previous wins, he won the Tour of Langkawi, he also won the Tour of Portugal, the Grand Prix International Portugal it's called, on the overall classification, plus a stage of that race. That is all he's won in his career, which started in 1993. And now it looks to me as though he's about to win a stage of the Giro d'Italia, and judging by his face, he is going to give it everything.
Well, he is giving it everything right now. His advantage around about 35 seconds. That last attack on the front of the group there came from Hernan Buenahora, but they're all back together now as he goes through the gate and into the Citadel. This is a very difficult finish for a bike race, and a very narrow finish too. You can see now on the front Pavel Tonkov, with the attack now once again coming from Marco Pantani.
Well, he's still pulling away from this little group, and he did it right. He did it rather like Axel Merckx did it the other week in this race, when he came onto a group and immediately attacked them. And now again going on his own, and this time with no reaction, is Marco Pantani. Now, has he left himself enough time to dance up this hill and catch Lanfranchi?
Well, Lanfranchi looks pretty comfortable now. He's getting into the very steep part. This is right through the middle of town, a very narrow place to bring a big bike race like the Giro d'Italia. His advantage is still 40 seconds. He's not losing very much, although his style doesn't look really good just now. He's just trying to get as much power into those legs as he can just to survive and hold on. He's built up at one stage almost 55 seconds, but he's starting to lose quite a bit of that. And looking back down the slopes, we cannot see Marco Pantani, but you know, if this guy falters, Phil, Pantani could well come back. In the group of the pink jersey there's no reaction.
No, and Pantani's not there, so he has consolidated his attack now. As we go up into the gates of Briançon, the old fortress that used to keep out the Italians in the old days, now it's allowing them to come in.
It's strange the way the history turns around. The Italians now are storming into the citadel of Briançon. Out on the road, Marco Pantani is currently in second position. He's making a magnificent comeback here. He's trying to prove to the world that the pirate is back, and he'll be flying his flag shortly in the Tour de France. But for the moment, the man who is stealing the glory is this man, Paolo Lanfranchi, the man who has worked for so many leaders over many years for the Mappé squad. He's now out through the top end of the citadel, and fairly shortly he's going to be on the flat finishing straight. He's
done his tour of the old fortress. He's waving to the public here now because he's come to the Giro d'Italia, and at last he is going to win a stage. A little Marco is coming up, but he's not coming up quick enough. Paolo Lanfranchi gets the victory here. 5.5 hours crossing the Alps today. Look at the crowd here. We've gone right back into the town, so there's almost a minute here, and it's not so far back either to the little group that Marco Pantani left. So he's making his way up to the top of the citadel, and shortly will be out in the home straight, but he's going to be around about a minute behind.
Well, this is a great day for Marco Pantani because he's proved to himself more than anybody else in the sport of cycling that he is back and that he can be competitive. This might only be a second place out on the road, Phil, but this is going to be an important stepping stone for Pantani's future.
Yes, the little man is back. I nearly said the big man is back, but the little man is back. And Marco Pantani now, who I think would have won the stage today if he hadn't ridden so unselfishly in defence of Garzelli. As it is, he comes over second, around 55 seconds down he was in the end. There'll be a lot of people wanting to speak to him when he crosses the line. And it looks so Simone has got third, Casagrande, Garzelli in that order. And they'll all be given the same time, just over a minute. In fact, they almost pulled Pantani back.
Well, they did, but for Pantani, the important thing was really to get off the front of this group. Pavel Tonkov, once again, been put into serious difficulty. He had to recuperate, and fortunately for the Mappé squad, it was Paolo Lanfranchi who came up with the goods and gave them the victory over one of the toughest stages of the Giro d'Italia so far, the Col dell'Angelo and the Col d'Izoard.
Absolutely, and it'd be sixth place for Tonkov. Remember that it was Lanfranchi looked after him before he went on to win the stage, and Bernahora 7 and Cipollini coming home 2 minutes down in the end in 8th. But this man pulling on his team jersey, but he still has a pink jersey to own. Now we're on the eve of the time trial. It's going to be showdown time. 25 seconds to Garzelli and 49 seconds to Simone. One of those three will win the Giro d'Italia. And because today is the 34 kilometers time trial up mountains from Briançon to the mountaintop finish of Sestriere, and this is Stefano Garzelli about to start. Just gone off in front of him is Simone.
Well, you know, it's all going to be between these guys. 25 seconds separates Casagrande and Garzelli, and 49 seconds separates Simone from Casagrande. It really is all between these guys, and it's going to be a very difficult time trial there. So now on the slopes of the first climb of the day, Mont Genèvre, and Marco Pantani is crossing the finishing line with a time of 17th.
And he was smiling as well, Paul. But the last man is off now, so Francesco Casagrande. It's all about these three riders now. It's not necessarily about who wins the time trial. It is all who gets the most time between those three. This is Axel Merckx here. He's coming in now with a time a little bit off the leaderboard with a 1 hour 4 minute ride.
Well, these riders are all separated by 2 minutes out on the course. Salvadelli, not a great ride by him, 25th, 1 hour and 5 minutes. A lot of riders coming into the finishing line now. This is a pretty fast time. This is Jan Hruska with the new best time of 59 minutes and 49 seconds.
He's the only one inside the hour. That is an incredible performance, Paul. And he was the man that took out the prologue, don't forget. I don't think anybody's going to beat that time because these guys aren't matching his part-way checks. But this is mano a mano now, and Casagrande is not riding as well as Garzelli.
Well, Garzelli on the left, on the right there in the yellow jersey of Mercatoni, looking very comfortable. Coming up, Sergei Honchar comes across with a very good time. That's second, 1:01, Phil. He's almost 2 minutes behind Hruska.
That's a long way down, and Casagrande now is 39th at this check and away off the pace. I don't know what's wrong with him, Paul, but ever since he's left the start house, he has not had the style and fluidity.
He has not looked comfortable at all. This man, Gilberto Simone, is doing a pretty good ride, though. This now is on the harder part of the climb. This is a very difficult time trial, you know. You have to climb first over the Col de Montgenèvre and then up to the summit of the mountain of Sestriere. Second time for Andrea Noe. A good ride by him.
Well, he's a very, very good rider, Noe, and he's coming with a good time there. But this run here now is setting the world alight because he's pulling back his 25-second deficit and he's heading towards a pink jersey. Simone is just about in no man's land here and should hold third.
Well, he's riding well. This is Pavel Tonkov. He would have had to do something unbelievable to win the Giro d'Italia in this time trial. He started the day 2 minutes and 46 seconds behind. Casagrande, though, Phil, does not look good. This man is digging very deep. He's got a lot of energy in his pedaling action too. He may be nodding his body somewhat, but there's almost a difference in speed visibly between these two riders on the course.
Well, at the top of the climb now, up in Sestriere, Tonkov is in 18th place. He's not enjoyed this tour, really. Simone comes in with a 1:2:15 ride, and that too is a very good ride, but it's a question of where these two finish, and they are going, well, one's going to be quicker. I think Simone may not be behind Casagrande. He might well beat him. But now there's a big sprint by Garzelli, and look where he's slotting in the leaderboard. Third place for Garzelli, and I think that will win in the Giro d'Italia, and so do his supporters, because here comes Casagrande, and he had to finish with a time of 1:01:31, and that's long since gone. He is going to be almost 2 minutes behind Garzelli now.
Well, he never really got into his rhythm at the bottom of the climb, Phil. He didn't look fluid. He did not look like the man that dominated on the Col de San Pellegrino in Alpe. You know, he has suffered over the last few mountain stages, and I think he was put into serious difficulty yesterday by those incessant attacks of Simone's and Marco Pantani's. He's outside the time that he needed to finish. It will be a respectable time for him, but not good enough.
He hasn't ridden the time trials well, 1:2:58, and it's goodbye to that Maglia Rosa. Here's first the result. Jan Ruska gets his second time trial win. Noe did a wonderful ride for second. Garzelli excelled here in third place, and that's his girlfriend there, as she congratulates the new leader of the Giro d'Italia with just a weekend to come, and really no terrain left for Francesco Casagrande to attack him.
Well, that was unbelievable. This man calculated it absolutely. This is the new overall standings. Garzelli leads Francesco Casagrande by 1:27, and Simone is third now, 1:33 behind.
So we come down to the final stage from Turin into Milan, and as always it will be a bunch sprint in Milan. No opportunity now for anybody to take over the pink jersey of leadership. This little group, Paul, just ahead of the field, but the field are closing in.
They're closing in rapidly, but these guys may have timed it just to perfection. In the group at the back there is Mariano Piccoli. In the group as well, you can see one of the other sprinters, and this is all coming back together. In fact, David McKenzie is in that group a little bit further back, and they might have done it, Phil, because they're 30 seconds clear for the moment over the main field.
Well, there's a lot of work being called for here, but I don't think they're going to do it, Paul, because if you look at the speed of that peloton now, they know as they go under the last kilometre that the sprinters are going to have their day here, and Garzelli is going to win the Giro d'Italia, having taken the lead on the penultimate day of the race in the time trial. They're actually messing about, and that will cause the gap to close. Well, it's still reasonable.
It's still reasonable, around about 25 seconds, but they are looking over their shoulders all of the time. The man on the back there is Oscar Pozzi. He is looking to try and surprise all of these guys in this final sprint for the line. The man in the middle, though, is a man who is very good. There's the attack from Pozzi. He's going forward, but in fact they caught them just as they were looking round, so he didn't get too far off the front.
Well, there were originally 12 in this breakaway. There's now 5 of them left as they've cracked under the pressure on this circuit. Pozzi is brought back to heel again, as again they look at each other here, and this will cost them the race. Piccoli is there in third place, and he's probably the best sprinter of this group.
Mirko Gualdi is the Mobile Veta rider at the back now. He's a very good sprinter as well. Pozzi tries again. He accelerates right down the far side of the road. But you know, there in the middle, Mariano Piccoli is nicely placed. In the back, Mirko Gualdi, watch for him because he has got a good punch.
Well, Piccoli on second wheel here. The big tall man in the Seiko colours is Giuseppe Calcaterra. They are going to win it out anyway, and Piccoli comes and challenges. Mariano Piccoli, a former king of the mountains, gets the victory on the line. Giuseppe Calcaterra there in second place. But this is the race now for the rest of them, and indeed in the middle of the pack here is going to be the winner of the Giro d'Italia. And that was an excellent victory for Stefano Garzelli. There he goes, and Marco Pantani was not very far away from his side. The green jersey there being worn today by the winner of the King of the Mountains, and that is Francesco Casagrande, and behind that there is a story. But first of all, let's have a look at the first place now for Stefano Garzelli. Casagrande forced into second with a day to go in the Giro. Both of those riders, having the past only won the Tour of Switzerland, and third for the second year, Gilberto Simoni. But I'm afraid the King of the Mountains trophy, Paul, it was given to Casagrande, and it really wasn't very fair the way it was done, was it?
Absolutely not. It was all decided on that little transponder we spoke about. They decided that Francesco Casagrande was the fastest rider on the final mountain of the stage, and although they ended up having exactly the same points, the Italians gave the victory in the King of the Mountains competition to Casagrande.
But only 27 riders wore the transponders. It wasn't compulsory to use them, and of course there were many riders beat Casagrande, but they didn't have the timers on, so the judges didn't count them, and they gave the victory to just a handful of riders who went up the climb, and of course that meant that Casagrande was best of just a few of them. Very unjust decision, I think. Well, the Intergiro competition led for much of the way by Fabrizio Guidi. Finally he got victory in that, and he's won it before. And Konishev led for more than half of the race in the points competition and richly deserved that title. Hope you've enjoyed the coverage of the Giro d'Italia, and until the next time, for Paul Sherwin, I'm Phil Liggett saying so long.